Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Um, Today we're going to touch on a topic that we were going to hit yesterday, but we had a special guest show up, so I canceled yesterday's show. First and foremost, can everybody hear me? Can y'all hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right, Nikki, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm still in my car. I went to LA Fitness downtown. Well, uh, and to work out, and I stopped to get some gas. We're gonna get the show on the road anyway. Genres, inventors, and if so, what did others create? Um, this is a real question. This is not. We're not trolling. We're dead serious. 99.9% of the time. Well, let me be more scholarly with my number. About 90% of the time, when you analyze inventions in this United States of America, you boil it down to a foundational Black American, from the doorknob to the personal to the computer. Who knew that a Black man created the computer? That kind of touches me a little bit, because my granddaddy, we called him Bubba. Call him Bubba. He worked at a place in Alabama called Aggressograph Multigraph. Accessograph Multigraph. Somebody Google that. Well, let's talk a little history about inventions. Well, Alabama was a state that absorbed Dr. Werner von Braun. Dr. Werner von Braun was a scientist from Nazi Germany, and Werner came to Huntsville to create what is known as NASA, right? Well, why am I bringing him up? I bring him up because northern Alabama, where my granddaddy is from, they're from Opelika, like not right outside of Huntsville, has been a bastion of tech in the world. Huntsville was before Silicon Valley, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody says shit about Huntsville, but if you drive through Huntsville, you'll see a whole bunch of tech. It's the weirdest shit ever, because Alabama is real kind of conservative, and I love Alabama. It's gorgeous, but it's backwoods and kind of like, hey y'all, but you make the wrong turn and go through Decatur, and you go through Huntsville, you'll see all these like tech firms. It's like Silicon Valley. It's like, what the hell? But the difference between northern Alabama, Huntsville, and Silicon Valley is northern Alabama is their tech is almost dedicated wholly to the military industrial complex. So I guess that's why it's kind of hush hush. They don't want you to know that they're making chips that go in nuclear missiles, that type of thing. So everybody, you're on a need to know basis. But anyway, my granddaddy, Bubba, worked at a Accessograph Multigraph back in the day, and that was a computer company. Y'all know what Accessograph Multigraph turned into? It turned into IBM. Well, my granddaddy, that was a big. He almost looked white, but he's Black. That was a big job for a Black man back then. And granddaddy, I'm gonna tell his story. He one day went to work, and one of the boss's nephews had just graduated from University of Alabama and needed a job. So they told Bubba to train this young man, and he did. He did as he was told. He trained the young man everything he knew, and once the young man was good and trained, guess what happened to my granddaddy's job? Gone. They gave it to the little white boy. Well, I'm bringing this up to kind of support the fact that a lot of our inventions and our ingenious in America came from foundational Black men. I don't know what Bubba created at IBM. I don't know. He was a genius, but when IBM Accessograph Multigraph fired him, he never got over it. He hit the bottle real hard. You know, what did Bubba create? Did he create the microchip? I don't know. He didn't want to talk about it. But back to the topic: do FBAs have all the music genres and inventors? Let's start with music genres. What do you think about that, Wani? Do we?
Yes, we do. And not only do we have our own music genres that we're known for, but we've also created the music genres that white people claim they created. But one thing I want to bring out in terms of people saying they created things, a lot of the people saying they created things actually banned our music. So there's no way you can take credit for something when you've literally censored it and banned it and put some of the musicians in jail, some of the popular musicians of the day in jail. So they did not create jazz or any of that. So I'm going to mention like one of the first things that we're credited with making is work songs, which were described. A lot of things that we've done have been described by, other people outside of it. And that's partially why we have proof that we've created it. But way back in the 1800s, luckily we have documented these things. So even though a lot of our inventions have been stolen, a lot of them have been registered and patented. And we're even getting credit for things that we've invented and people that we've trained to make whiskey. Um, we're finally getting credit for some of those things
Right?
that we've created. Yes. And so, excuse me. The first thing that we were credited with creating is on the record. It's around the 1850s and 60s, spirituals, and it was called the Slave Songbook. We had the first barbershop quartet, which I didn't know about. And because I associate that with, barbershops and maybe European people had barbershops, but we literally have a very old song called Mama's Black Baby Boy. And luckily, these things were published in 1893. So now remember, being Black American, we may not have had access to all of the recording equipment that the European had, but what we did have access to is publishing, which was cheaper than recording. So we had published things, and they thought that they were going to snatch our music. They tried to do this with jazz. They heard some Buddy Bolton and others playing jazz, and so they ran over to the white part of town and started recording like this is ours. And they ran around telling the whole world that they just discovered this music, they just created this, and they had their big mouth people talking about this is a music form that they've created. They did have the money to record before us, but thankfully they did not publish the music before us. So we know what Buddy Bolden created. And so that's one of the things. We move through the spirituals, barbershop quartets, ragtime, and we have all the first recordings on these things. Um, Buddy Bolden apparently had some sort of medical problem, and so he was after he created, uh, really created jazz. Other people started playing his music and calling it, the Buddy Bolden blues. So it moves down to big band jazz. Scat starts to enter the scene in the 1920s, and then it moves to bebop, um, to blues, to boogie woogie. Country, that's one of the ones that white people thought they snatched away, but all of the most popular fathers of country music in quotation marks credit these black men with teaching them how to play and sing and pick and do every aspect of country music. um, and there's another person who's credited with all the picking styles in bluegrass, rock and roll, we already know. We have a lot of architects for that music genre. Several architects. That wasn't just made by one person or one prominent person. It does have a lot of different architects. Now, I'm going to stop right after this one because I don't want to read the whole thing, but we have Roy Hamilton, who recorded just before Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley admitted to hanging out with him and liking his style and all of these things. And when you look at Roy Hamilton, he looks like a black Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley literally went over there, stole the man's sweater, his dance moves, his exact voice. He literally mimicked this man. And he even has a white version of his hairstyle. I have never seen anyone steal another person's look, swag, and voice in my life. That was the biggest ripoff that I've ever seen. But he did admit it. He did credit this man, but that's something that the dominant society suppressed, along with the oppression. They don't want you to know that these people are telling the truth. I'll do part two in a minute. Uh oh, I hear some breaking up. Um, I can continue. We can talk about some of these inventions. So, we created 50,000 patents from the mid 1800s to the mid 1900s. And of course, we have 101 HBCUs, and we have inventions and innovations in every segment of society. So it all begins with agriculture. We worked in agriculture, obviously, and um, necessity is the mother of invention. So what we had to do was invent things to increase the yield, invent things to make our lives easier. Um, and of course, there was always, if you invent something really good, you can buy your freedom. So that encouraged people to invent things as well. Once we had so many inventions in that, we moved on to things associated with the mechanical devices and the railroad and our involvement in the railroad, being owned by the railroad, working on the railroad. That inspired us to make mechanical devices and lubricants for the railroad, like the real McCoy inventions. We have made inroads in medicine, and I'll go over some of the inventions, but I don't want to rattle on. Architecture, technology, science, mathematics, astronomy, and we have a big part in NASA's race to space, because those women calculated the moon landing and they were also suppressed and people didn't know about them. Can you imagine the European had no problem hanging out in the lunchroom and in the toilet and all these places with uh, serial killers, people that put people in gas chambers because all of those Nazis came over there to um, join into NASA because they had all the information. Our country didn't have any information on that. So they joined in and they had no problem hobnobbing with murderers, people who should have been on the end of a rope and killed. Uh, but they had a problem with these intelligent women, these rocket scientists. They had a problem with them. So, one of the things we'll talk about, did Black people create the computer? I'm not going to say they did, but no one person created the computer. It's a big, big invention. And so teams are responsible for this, but we have some hell of a input on that invention. One of the things is a man named Emmett McHenry. He created the .com, .net, .edu, .gov, and what those did is they allowed the computer user to navigate the internet without a computer science education. So it made it user friendly because before then it was like, that screen that you need to use to do stuff that I don't want to do. And it was very difficult to be online and use a computer. So we created some very, very powerful um, aspects to people using the computer. Of course, we're not.
Now,
Go ahead.
Wani, I didn't know that. That's crazy. I did not know that he because I was trained to. That's what I did in the total force community. I worked with
Mhm.
computers, so I'm a slick computer program. And the screen you're talking about, is called the computer programmers call it the shell.
Oh,
It's in yeah, in Windows it's command
yeah,
prompt,
that's the one.
and command prompt in Apple is terminal. But
Yep.
yeah, like I did not know that a black man is the one who made it user friendly. Like that's a big
It's
fucking
a
deal.
big,
Like,
big deal. We're involved in some of the biggest inventions on the planet, like the part that makes the light bulb stay on, the carbon filament. Also, the part that's used in the film projector, which is related to the carbon filament. And also, Lewis Latimer worked with Alexander Graham Bell on the telephone, and he also defended him in court against a rival inventor. So, Alexander Graham Bell would not have gotten that patent for the telephone. We all know who created the telephone. Why would they have this random black guy in everybody's laboratories working on these things? So, we know what's going on, but we can only credit him for what he got patent for, and he's got tons of patents. But what he was is he was a patent officer, so he was able to push Alexander Graham Bell's um, patent through. And he was also able to go to court and say, these are the blueprints, yada, yada, yada. And that was enough for him to get it because, believe it or not, another pair of men from the UK, they had invented a telephone as well. I don't know if it was the same type or the same technology, but they had invented that too. And so he was powerful enough to get their inventions pushed through, and he had the N at the patent office. I can continue, but you can, cut me in off for a minute.
oh yeah, no, you're educating me. Like that's why I was quiet. But we're looking at a pattern, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't know if it's because our self-esteem. And I'm speaking to me as well. I'm realizing the older I get that foundational Black American self-esteem has been just fucking destroyed. Like, what am I saying? I'm saying that why don't more people stand on the mountaintops and say this? I'm a guy who knows a lot of different things. I just sit around and read stuff. And what Wani just said, I didn't know. And it's a goddamn shame that I didn't know that. Because computer interfaces are running the planet right now. Like, what is done in America that doesn't have when I say computer interface, I mean like the way the computer looks, or maybe a better way to say it is what in America is done without a computer. And back in the day, in the early '90s, when I was a little boy, my dad was getting out of the Navy, and he was introducing me to computers. That's my first little introduction to computer. And he bought us a computer. We were the first black kids on the block that had a little I forgot, it was a Dell or it was some little boxy computer with a floppy drive, and my dad was showing me command prompt, MS DOS, how to do lines of code. And I remember checking out and being like, no, 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 no. This is way too hard. Like, let me give y'all a point of reference because I'm certified to teach this stuff now. In order for you to use that command prompt shell thing me and Wani were talking about a minute ago, you have to be well versed in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So Algebra 2 is not all that easy. If you don't know Algebra 2, you're not gonna know how to do if then statements. Like it's what I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen, is like I learned when I was 5. It's not some shit you can tinker with. You got to know exactly what you're doing. So what Wani just told us is some black man figured out a way to make touching buttons solve equations. I don't even know how to think to do that. You know what I'm saying? You press a button, we call them radio buttons. You press a button to talk on your phone, and really the computer just solved.
You're breaking up. Are you there? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I was
Can you hear
going.
me now?
Yes. I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, go ahead.
Were you still driving?
Yeah, I'm almost home.
Okay.
I took a little detour.
So another one I was. being heavily fought. A lot of white boys were very angry with Henry Sampson. He invented a binder system for propellants and explosive. He co-invented the gamma electric cell, which converts nuclear energy into electricity to power mobile communication satellites, space travel, and he was awarded several patents. Now he was a lot of people were running around the internet saying he created the cell phone. um, we are pioneers of a lot of this technology. So Henry Sampson has something to do with an aspect. Like I said, these are all team inventions. It's not like one guy went in his, in his garage and said, "Hey, voila, here's a computer." You might go in your garage and come up with a different kind of computer, but the whole computer thing it's a team. They used to fill up entire rooms, like you'd have a computer room. So these are always a team thing, and very military oriented. So you know how the military works, where one person does something and the other group doesn't know. Like at NASA, some department is doing some calculation, they don't know for what, and another department is doing something else. So a lot of people on different teams were doing different things, and we're definitely a part of it, a very big part of it. So the other guy, Jesse Eugene Russell, he's a pioneer of the cell phone, father of 2G communications, and it was awarded multiple patents that made mobile technology possible. So they can argue, we have multiple black men involved in cell phone technology. And the other person that has a lot to do with computer things is Mark Dean. We have Gerald A. Lawson, pioneer of video games. And I'm not going to read all of them. Obviously, I can't read 50,000, but I pulled out the most impressive ones that I liked, that I thought were relevant for um, what we're talking about. We have multiple inventors. Gerald A. Lawson, pioneer of video games. Um, Valerie Thomas, innovator in 3D, and invented the illusion transmitter. Now, we've invented a lot of things for NASA. That's something that we don't really speak about. We know about the ladies who calculated the moon landing, but we also have a lot of men and women who've invented things for NASA, different cameras and things that they use to take pictures in outer space and on planets. So we've done a lot with Apollo. With you wouldn't believe how many Black Americans have invented things for NASA. I don't know why. Maybe they have a program that they all went into, but we have a slew of inventions for everything. Like I said, everything from gas
Well,
masks
I
to
want to hopefully my phone's not breaking up. I want to address that right quick.
yes,
Yeah, what I'm addressing, ladies and gentlemen, is what Wani just said about how we are always involved. Generally, more than likely, rather, always is a strong term. More than likely, we're involved with the creation of high tech apparatuses, or apparati. I don't know how to say it plural, but I want to point some shit out right quick. That's a fact, and we're used to crunch the heavy lifting, the hard numbers, and we're kept out. Earlier, Wani said something very important. She said, like, she mentioned the military, and she said in military operations, I'm paraphrasing you, Wani. In military operations, um, people are doing stuff that the top people at lower ranking people are doing stuff that they don't have a need to know, but they've been given an order, given a task. That's kind of a complex idea I wanted to unpack, but I'm going to unpack it perfectly with this one. Albert Einstein, I'm not a big fan of his, but I'm going to use him, was hired on the Manhattan Project. Now, the Manhattan Project came out of Chicago. You see how deceptive this shit is? The Manhattan Project. And it was done in the basement of University of Chicago in downtown Chicago. The Manhattan Project created the nuclear weapon, or perfected the nuclear weapon. There's some argument that the nuclear weapon was already created thousands of fucking years ago, um, with the Vedas, and that's a whole nother discussion, but I digress. Anyway, um, The Manhattan Project hired the best and brightest scientists. On paper, the white ones. We know about the white ones. We don't have a fucking clue what type of black people were at University of Chicago, off the street, working, doing, crunching the numbers. But back to my point before I get lost in um, a nebula of thought. Albert Einstein was hired to crunch heavy numbers on the probability of getting critical mass. Critical mass is when, with respect to nuclear weapons, is the amount of scores of atoms you need to coalesce to spark off a runaway isotope to get a boom, right? Well, Albert Einstein was not told what he was doing. Like Wani said, they didn't tell him. They just gave him an equation. They gave him a bunch of money. Say, hey, Princeton professor, solve this. And Albert Einstein, as history reports, looked at the exponent. Now exponential power is like, runaway power, like just like uh, a really high spike on a graph. He looked at the exponent and said, I'm not doing this shit. I'm creating a weapon. Now, why am I bringing it up? A lot of people wouldn't think to do that, wouldn't think to look at indicators for what they're doing. Most people just do what they're told. Albert Einstein already had money. He already had prestige. Um, so he had the choice to say, I'm not fucking with this. But I want y'all to think, and I'm gonna close on this. Think about how many foundational Black American scholars and scientists that go unnamed were working on projects, not being told what they were doing, giving their rent money and saying, "Hey, solve this," and they happily solved it. And then something the next day goes boom. I'm gonna land my plane on that one.
Do we have any hands up? Alonzo, did you want to speak, or should I continue with some of the better invention?
Oh, I just want to say something real quick. Thanks, Professor
Sure.
Hope. Thank you, co-host. As you were actually speaking, I was actually reading the book that I posted in the Jumbotron and the Purple Pill. If you look at the last pages of that book, it goes over some of the Black American inventions and stuff. So I just kind of illustrate, trying to land the point that you're making, landing home in regards to folks seeing in black and white that those are inventions that we indeed made as Black Americans. I land.
Thank you. So, like I said, we have specific inventions. Somebody was, saying that we created the refrigerator. No, we created mobile refrigeration, which is very important because, like a lot of food that we need transported, wouldn't be able to be. It would be spoiled without that invention. It would be spoiled. There's a lot of things that we have reinvented, improved, and really just invented right out of the blue. And I'm going to go down to one of these others. We have another lady, she invented a type of laser eye surgery. She didn't invent laser eye surgery, but she did invent a type, and that's very, very, very high tech. Um, we have a lot of inventions for marine biology and for a lot of the like weapons, mass weapons of war are parts to make those things function. Now back to this is one of our favorites, the three position traffic signal and the gas mask. Those things are very useful, as you know, and these are some of the things that people don't want us to be credited with. These are things that people have used and have survived in the war and has survived on the street. And I've been to countries where they don't even have street lights, and it's not fun. Um, but another really, really, this guy's like a super genius, Benjamin Banneker, astronomer, mathematician, surveyor, naturalist, and he is an author of an almanac. Um, we have this is another invention where you have someone who has, his name is Alexander Miles. He modernized the elevator, which is a hell of a lot. I mean, no, he didn't invent the elevator, but he modernized it, and it needed to be modernized. Um, Now, here's another one. Granville Taylor Woods invented the multiplex telegraph and railway devices.
Hello.
I need to I need to look up. This is another form of communication, and this is another person who made some railway devices besides the real McCoy, who's the most popular. Um, and so we have Benjamin Thornton, who invented the predecessor to the answering machine device. Again, we have a lot of electronic inventions to our name. Um, Again, more railway devices and very practical things like strong boxes and the modern mailbox. That's another one that we don't get credited with now. Patterson and Sons, they had a really great automobile, but the problem was it was so handcrafted that they couldn't mass produce something like this. I mean, this is like very, very high quality. And I think he really had a lot of buses that they were using, but he did not mass market this because um, it was too, it was just too high quality. And so a Ford came along and just mass produced some cars that were cheaper in quality. But again, there we are inventing cars with very limited resources. We have another man who created the turn signal for the car, and he invented some systems to heat large structures, the vacuum pump, and a thermostat control. We have a lot of inventions for inside of buildings and the systems that make buildings work. This is the one I was talking about. This man, Frederick McKinley Jones, he invented the portable refrigeration machine, a unit for military air conditioning, and self start gas engine and movie projector devices. So he invented some movie projector devices, which went along with Lewis Latimer's inventions for the lights that were used in some of the early projectors. So we have everything to do with Hollywood from the top to the bottom. Not only do we invent some of the things that made created the equipment to make them able to film, but we were some of the first subjects of the films. We're some of the first people that they took uh, moving images of, and it could have been because of the fact that Lewis Latimer was so, hanging out with Edison and I guess Berlinger and all of those guys with the cameras wanted to film something interesting, and of course, we're very interesting. Of course, we have a lot of inventions for the for agriculture, the corn planter and the mechanical cotton picker. And we have a lot of these men were also abolitionists. This man, Thomas Elkins, was a dentist, a surgeon, a pharmacist. He improved refrigeration. He improved the refrigeration apparatus. So, this is another invention that we helped with, another type of refrigeration. The apparatus that makes the refrigerator work, he improved it and he modernized the toilet. Very useful inventions. I think no one will deny that. But I wanted to stop real quick and say um, one of these inventions, repeat one of these inventions, and any immigrant here would be bragging out of their ass for their whole life. We have the Chinese who didn't even build the railway in the West. They built part of it and they were doing it with other immigrants. They're not responsible for anything. 700 miles of track versus thousands of miles of train tracks that and completed railway systems. That is what they're trying to compare, and the racists just want to keep saying that they made the railroad and ignoring the fact that no, we did. Because who was over here on this side of the country? We already know. So now we also um, we have a lot to do. Like when we talk about George Washington Carver. This man was an agricultural scientist and inventor. He was skilled in soil regeneration, crop rotation, and composting. And this man, a White House chef, perfected ice cream. The way that we know ice cream, the texture to be, he perfected it. And then that brings us to the other troublemaker, um, George Speck Crumb, who created Saratoga chips, which were potato chips. He just kept, experimenting with them. They have a few different stories for how he came to those, but um, he says his sister made them, and one of them did, and he had a restaurant and he served them in the restaurant. So, and then that brings us to Nathan Nearest Green. He was a master distiller. He mentored Jack Daniel and created Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey. Again, like I said, these are some of my favorite ones. It just shows the range, the agricultural, the technical, the NASA, um, the useful things. And we have a lot of geniuses. I've also listed some geniuses. We have 17 Black American astronauts now, and I'm sure they're working on things, inventions for NASA as we speak.
That's a fact. I wanted to identify a behavior that's, and y'all forget the noise, that's seen in nature that I want to drive home to show what's done to foundational Black American children. Y'all vibe with me. Take a walk with me right quick. Let's look at the dodo bird. The dodo bird, not the dodo bird, the cuckoo. I'm sorry. I was about to embarrass myself. The cuckoo. The cuckoo will go and lay her egg in another bird. I think it's a robin or one if you can remember the name of the bird that it does. But it's irrelevant what the bird's name is. But this cuckoo will lay her egg in another bird's nest, a smaller bird. And through acoustic records, this cuckoo, violent little bird, actually kills the hatchlings. The mama bird don't know that that's not hers because they hatch around the same time. And the cuckoo kills his brothers and sisters and ends up being raised up by a whole nother bird who lost their children to murder, if you will. Well, that's as an educator, that's what and shit, as a student, actually, as a student, that's the type of um, the logic that I've seen, the protocol I've seen in the school system. What Wani just told you, what she gave you was evidence, absolute hardcore evidence of foundational Black Americans having an innate genius. I got it in me. I get so mad. One of my, and I'm up here trauma dumping. Let me be careful. But I really do get frustrated, y'all, because I wanted, as y'all could probably guess, when I was in elementary school and middle school, my mind was geared towards science. High school too. I was science oriented. I liked functionality, and I've always been a big geek. But do you know my teachers in high school and elementary school deliberately took me out of science based genres and threw me into sports? Play football, play football. Won't you play basketball? Won't you learn how to sing? Like, I didn't know that then because I was a child. I was like, okay, well, shit, I guess I'm supposed to sing. But I wanted to take physics. I wanted to take that class so bad, and they put me out of it. Well, how does this relate to what Juan saying? It relates because that is still going on in this United States of America. Our kids are propagandized to, like the cuckoo, to get out of their nest. Go get in my nest. Go get in another nest. And it's the one of the greatest deceptions of all time. When I moved to Memphis, um the mayor then, AC Warden, what served as my mentor for a little while, and AC had rented out a stadium and jam packed it full of kids in Memphis, mostly young Black men. And AC told them, raise your hand if you want to be in the NBA, because we had the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies were fairly new. Raise your hand if you want to be in the NBA. The whole stadium raised their hand, right? AC said, not going to happen. And they're like, oh. And he was like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. He's like, let's look at some numbers. He said only 200 people a year make it to the NBA. And AC was like, that's not 200 people in America. That's 200 people in the world, because we got NBA players coming from China, coming from Europe, coming from Africa. And, AC was like, substantially only a fraction of 1% of you, a small fraction of 1% is going to even make it to the NBA.
You're breaking up a little. You're right.
Um,
Only a small portion make it.
picks it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And but anyway,
Y'all hear
when he
me?
said that, no, I can't hear you, bro.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to
Hey.
cut you off. I'm new to the space. I am FBA. My family's from East Texas, Longview, and Kilgore, and Marshall. Um, just a few inventions that I didn't know. We created the steam engine for the boat as well. Benjamin Boardley, and then also I found out we created the airplane first for the Wright brothers. We did it first, and then the helicopter, we had a hand in that as well too. So just a few more inventions by us as well. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, brother. But back to my other point is, I'm telling y'all, as somebody on the front lines of this, our children are being kicked out the nest. Our children have it in them. When I did my student teaching ages ago, shit, damn near 20 years ago, um, I did it at elementary school in West End, in the Shees neighborhood, in West End Elementary. And I had a young black man, a young black boy, probably 5 years old, 6 years old, showing me his drawings. He was drawing some complex engine system. And I remember thinking back then, when I was a child, really, wow, somebody needs to cultivate this innate sense of functionality within this child. This child wanted STEM. He had it in him. And what I witnessed during my student teaching is the teachers at that school in the heart of the ghetto, who most of which were not black, um, messed with that child's mind, whether intentional or unintentional, I don't know. But what I know they did was they geared him towards a performance-based career choice. Be a ball player, be this, be that. So what I'm trying to say is our kids are getting kicked out the nest.
Yeah,
And I'm sick and tired of
they
it.
are. And that's the parents need to understand what their children's strengths are and make sure they get the right thing, because these teachers, they have agendas, they're biased. And I noticed that they have done that, because it was just the opposite when my uncles, they worked in they worked as civilians for the Navy. They were recruited from high school. They were singled out. So they were not doing that then, because all my uncles were recruited for different aspects. But I wanted to follow up on what 44 was saying. So this man's name is Charles Page. He was born enslaved in Louisiana in 1864. He patented an airship in 1906, and there's a patent number. He watched bugs fly and said, I could do that. It's very interesting. And it also, there is a helicopter.
That's the type of talent.
There's also a helicopter. I don't have that on the list, and I think it was
That,
because he was teamed up with somebody who was not Black American.
Yeah, yeah, he was. He had a hand in it.
Right. He was involved in it, though.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all is we're not in our rightful place in this Western society. We're not. Who said it before I did was C. Freeman L. C. Freeman L. And he got into secret societies and stuff. I'm not going to touch on that stuff. But C. Freeman L. said, uh, the European puts on your clothes and he's pretending like he's you. It's so true, man. And I'm not trying to be ugly towards a group of people. I'm just trying to speak truth to power. is we're scientists. That's our zone. We're high, deep thinkers. That's our zone. So the system, knowing that that's our zone, goes above and beyond to try to tell us that's not your zone. And something needs to be done about it. I've about had enough of it. I'm at a PWI this year, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm having the most challenging year of my life for several reasons, but that's part of it. And it's so fascinating. Like the politics at a PW. I've been in historically black colleges and black inner city schools my whole career, and I actually want to get back to them. I used to complain about them, but you got to be careful what you complain about, ladies and gentlemen. No shit. But anyway, back to the point. The politics I'm witnessing at PWI is so fascinating. It's almost a politics that I'm dealing with. I dealt with it at PWI high school. Um, the politics are, hey, black person, this is your lane. And who said it was Tariq Nasheed said this the other day. Tariq said, y'all listen to the dominant society because they walk up to you nice. They're real nice. What we need to eliminate is this being fooled by a smiling face. You know what I'm saying? Hey, why don't you play basketball with a smiling face? Hey, why don't you play football with a smiling face? Hey, why don't you sing? You should be an actor with a smiling face. That's an attack. How many people make their life, their living being an actor? What percentage of people? I bet you it's less than the NBA. You know what I'm saying? So
Really,
what I'm trying to say,
really
ladies and gentlemen,
less.
is you got teachers and counselors.
I was just,
Oh
I
man, and
was
that's what they told me in high school. That's what happened.
sorry. I think there's a delay.
Oh, go ahead, one.
The percentage of people that are big time stars like Denzel is just unbelievably rare. Um, Even getting a movie is rare. So someone telling you to get into movies, that is just that's awful. Or any of that. Even sports.
It's an attack.
You can do it if you don't have any other skills. I mean, if you're a big goofball and you're big and you're athletic, then yeah, because you don't have any other options. But that should never be your first option because it's hard to get those high pay positions. Go ahead, Black Idaho.
Hey, y'all sure you want y'all? I thought Lonzo was up here first if he wanted to
Oh,
cook for.
I didn't see his hand up. Was his hand up? I thought he
I
was. I thought
the,
Alonzo was resting.
Yeah, yeah,
Were
he cool. If you want me to cook, I'll cook.
okay.
Hey, peace and blessings, Wani. How you doing? Long time no speak. Professor, what's the good
Good.
word? Hope all is well with you guys. This is a great space. Do FBAs have all the music genres and inventors? I would say yes. Uh, I would say before I wanted to talk about something that no one ever talks about. Um, But before I go there, you're right. You were talking about Hollywood. Before I picked up my first rifle, before I moved to Idaho, I was from Chicago. I went to performing arts school, and I went to Los Angeles. And I thought I was gonna be this big star. Man, I damn near lost mine. I said, hey, I gotta my people said, hey boy, you better get up out of there. So I took the little money I got from my first commercial and I got out of there, took my little money, and I said, hey, this place is a cesspool of craziness, and to be famous, you're gonna have to jump through all these hoops, right? So I had to say, hey, I'm not gonna be Denzel. So I took my money and I took my black ass to Idaho. But look, I wanted to say this. Did you know that not only are we the first EMTs in America, right? But we're also the very first firefighters. Uh, I wanted to say that it's documented that Black Americans, Negro Americans, used to fight on the all the wildfires on the West Coast that used to take place. See when we talk about our lineage in America, we have to talk about our contributions too. I think a lot of us get a little afraid to talk about this history, this deep history that we have. We are the original Buffalo Soldiers. And that's documented, and no one ever talks about that. And I would say the Buffalo Soldiers gave way to the police department, but they won't give the Negro American that credit for that. But I would say yes, we are the original firefighters, wild firefighters. We invented that genre because the white man was afraid to get in that forest and fight that stuff, and our troops did that. Black Americans did that, and also I would say the Buffalo Soldiers who were black the Buffalo Soldiers who are black gave way to the police to force. And I'll rest right there. Thank you for having me up here.
Thank you.
Well, well, I love what you said. I'm gonna have to correct you a little bit on one thing, but I love 98% of what you said. So the police force came from the slave patrols. So the police force, unfortunately, has its genesis involved into with respect to keeping blacks and Indians in line. So
Of course,
that's where
of
the police
course,
force evolved from. It's like it's a dark fact, a hidden fact that nobody wants
of
to talk
course. Yes, of course. All
about.
the
Go ahead,
immigrants get involved in a police
but
force. You're right on that. I just wanted to say that before all that stuff was taking place, they were trying to move the Indians around, and the Buffalo Soldiers were the guys who was kind of, you know, preserving the Forest Service and the forest throughout the United States. And I would say this too, Black America. If you got young boys
I
in
got
your inner cities and young black girls in your inner cities, get them involved in the Forest Service. The Forest Service is a good job, and you can do pretty well for yourself, and you can get a nice pension and a nice
that.
retirement. I'm sorry, Professor. What you said? My bad. I'm sorry.
Oh
You're breaking up, Professor. I,
no, you good. That.
I'm,
Oh
I,
Lord, this
I
that's.
was just
Oh, can you hear me now? I'm at home now.
okay. I was
Wait,
just going to follow up on what he was saying. This man, Peter Safar, designed modern ambulances and EMS instruction. And the first people that agreed to take this course were some men from Freedom House. Well, it's called Freedom House. And the name of the book is American Sirens: The Incredible Story of the Black Men Who Became America's First Paramedics. Now, back to the Buffalo Soldiers. They did a lot of what you would say, like regulating. You know, they had to guard stage coaches, they had to run out poachers. They were doing some police activities, but the slave catcher did morph into, unfortunately, the police, but they were doing some police work. We had a lot of law out in the West. Remember the lawmen that we had out there that they stole and said they were white people on these television shows. So I'm gonna go look those up this weekend. I'm gonna check out the Buffalo Soldiers and see where they went with their policing and juxtaposed with the slave catcher and the lawmen in the West, because I didn't put those together. So now I have some little dots to connect, and we'll see how they all converged in our history.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
If you think about it too, we were the first Christians and Muslims as well. So religion, the main ones, even Buddha, the first Buddha was a black person. That's why them knots in their head. Those are,
Not
yeah.
Black American, though.
So, I'm sorry.
Not Black American, though.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. I guess the dark skinned race, though. I guess you can say.
But he definitely was.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
He
Yeah, that's
definitely had some dreadlocks cooking in the back
right.
and the braids.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not disputed. We can see the Buddha's face.
yeah.
And we, of course, people of African descent have their fingerprints all over Abrahamic religion. So,
That's true. Yeah.
of course, we did. They can't deny that.
Well,
And that's,
you got to excuse me. When I first, before I was a Pan African at first. For when I first started out,
mhm.
I was real Pan African, so I was into Egypt and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I've been detoxing here for the past few years, so you got to forgive me.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We all had to go through the detox.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me speak, though.
Thank you for speaking. So I'm going to follow up with some more music that you may not know we had something to do with. Wait, Professor, are you trying to talk?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to desync my Go ahead and talk. I'm just thinking
Oh,
my phone from my
okay.
car.
So we created not only all of the music genres in America, not all the music genres in the world, because some were created before we were created, but um, we can talk about that as well. Wait, why is Nikki down there? Okay, this app is stressful. Okay, so not only did we create all the music genres in America, except for the hokey pokey, but I think that came from somewhere else. Um, but a man named Willie Duckworth created a song called Sound Off. So we created military music. In fact, one of the very popular songs for the military. Of course, we had the first boy bands, doo-wop boy bands, with the first recording in 1939. Moving on, we have some architects of rhythm and blues, headed by Ray Charles and others. I won't go into all of them because it's too many to list, as you know. We created soul. We had the Motown sound, which has got a particular sound. So I consider that its own genre. We created funk, which is probably my favorite. I won't really like it unless it has some funk element in it. I like funk. Disco. And that was kind of we did create disco, but it was very pan everybody. So it started with rent parties in Harlem where people would all get together in these big loft spaces and raise money for people's rents. And so that's kind of how that kind of, and that was way back in the 1920s, by the way. This music genre has a long lead up to what we saw in the 70s. It actually, this whole hangout thing and rent parties was very popular in Harlem, and also they had this going on in Philadelphia. I don't remember big lofts in Philadelphia, but apparently they had something where they would have these rent parties. And of course, we had the Philadelphia Sound, Gamble and Huff, the Sound of Philadelphia. My mother's from Philadelphia, so I have to shout them out. We have House and Electric. The first song is 1984. And then you have the evolution of rap. And one of the earliest expressions of rap goes back to 1927 with the Beale Street Sheiks. And of course, you have Half Pint, Frankie Half Pint Jackson, um, the Jubilee Singers, the Mills Brothers, and they were actually breakdancing and rapping. Thomas Jordan, you have Muhammad Ali, and you have Pygmy Markham. Before it starts, now Pygmy Markham was 1968. And then one of the first expressions was 1970, where you had KC, the Prince of Soul, who was rhyming over disco records. And and then you had Disco King Mario, who hosted large parties, park jams in 1970 and beyond. And that it just goes from there. I mean, that cuts out all of the riffraff that tried to segue themselves in. As you see, our music is an evolution. You can't just segue in, like, okay, you got this kind of Homo erectus, then you got this next hominid, and then they want to segue in an alien. No, get out. You don't have anything to do with this evolution. This is our train and it's rolling, and it doesn't have any stops in Mexico. It doesn't have any stops in Puerto Rico. It doesn't have any stops in Europe. and they're not going to claim my music ever because these people attacked our music. They shamed each other for listening to our music, and literally Asian countries, European countries, the UK and the United States of America banned our music and called it nigger music, music of the lower races. This is documented. This is in books. This is in the newspaper. This is something that the
Are you sure you're
Nazis.
are you sure you're correct about what you're saying, Wani? Th- because if that's the case, because they invented hip hop, they
Oh
invented
Lord.
R&B. So, are you sure
Hmm.
you're correct about what you're saying? Fat
I
Joe
let me
says that
let me
we're
check
all
my
equal.
records. Let me check
Yes.
my records. I need to check my records. Nope, I don't see Fat Joe's fat ass involved at all. Um, we had the first disc jockeys in 1930. We had some very popular disc jockeys, and there was a lady named Mary Elizabeth Good, and she used two turntables from the 1940s to the 1960s. I wasn't around to listen to that. But we have a long history of disc jockeys. We have a long history of rap. We have a long history of breakdancing and all of these elements that don't have anything to do with these people. We have a video from 1894 called The Pickaninny Dance from the Passing Show. The Pickaninny Dance from the Passing Show. And this again, this is Edison um, recording Black Americans because it was because we're interesting. And again, he's friends with Lewis Latimer, so you figure it out. And maybe he was hanging out on the wrong side of town. Um, and again, the Mills brothers are mentioned because they're part of the whole evolution of breakdancing, which brings us to all the stuff James Brown was doing. I think James Brown invented all of the dance moves and all the music because every time you're talking about something, here comes James Brown with splits, boogaloo moves, the shuffle, and he inspired a lot of these moves. He inspired a lot of music. He is really a dynamo when you really look at it. And I have to give somebody who's not very popular, Ike Turner. I met him. He's basically an asshole and not fun to hang around. But
Brilliant
he's
though.
he's one of the architects of rock and roll, whether we like it or not. And I mean, he's very important in that genre. And when I was hanging out with him, unfortunately, because my father was doing something with him, um, he didn't seem to understand his legendary status, even though he was arrogant and things like that. I don't think he understood his place in this. So I just need to shout him out. Now, we created dance crazes that swept the world, okay? And we they had these women called flappers, you can look them up. And the Charleston was a dance craze. Um, the twist was a dance craze. And we have sparked dance crazes globally. And then that brings us to the music genres that our little diaspora friends don't want us to talk about. How we created reggae, and we also created high life, which is kind of a African jazz. We also created Afrobeat. Not only is there a book called Fela Kuti, James Brown, and the Invention of Afrobeat, because Fela Kuti came over here to hang out with a music dynamo, James Brown, and he left with a gift, a music genre. We do this all the time. We gift people with music genres, and the first generation says, "Thank you, oh my God." And they start playing it and running around and recording things. And then the next generations forget, they get full of themselves. They're very ignorant about history and they don't want to talk about it. So again, I think I've said this, several times, that we created um, a beat called the Roscoe Rhythm, and it was very popular in Kingston, Jamaica, because they could hear our radio stations broadcast toward to their island. And further, a man named Johnny Nash, who was a Black American, was signed in Kingston, Jamaica, to a record company where he had a string of reggae hits before Jamaicans had reggae hits. So they actually got a gift of a free music genre because they didn't have that beat and they did not have international presence. And then when we had that string, and we even had a white man, Neil Diamond, had a reggae hit prior to Jamaicans having a reggae hit. Not only did we give them a popularized music genre to run off with, which is fine because I don't like reggae, but they also got the idea for the block party from us, and they called it a blues party because they were up here after World War II and they saw our block parties, and they went home with all of our albums and they started doing blues parties, and they asked a Chinese Jamaican to make them sound system, and he did. Now the last one is High Life. High Life is basically, it's called High Life because they played for aristocratic audiences and exclusive clubs. But High Life is basically British people going over to where they, Africa, where they were colonizing, and giving the Africans brass instruments and telling them to play jazz, and they called it High Life. And they won't admit this, but this is a fact. They did not have brass instruments. They did not have jazz. And UK people love to steal our music. They've been doing that since we they're second generation thieves. So the first generation of white Americans steals and lurks and looks at what we're doing. And then they tell it to their little UK cousins. And then they see it, steal it. Next thing you know, Rolling Stones is happening. And then they're showing it to other people and presenting it as something that they have something to do with. There's a white man right now in the UK claiming that white people created jazz, and the white people are in the comments saying, then why are all the black Americans the stars and the master musicians of the genre? So that's how sick they are in their minds after banning it. So let me get this straight. You created jazz and then you turned around and banned it? Okay, good to know. Go ahead, John Horse.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? I just kind of wanted to just piggyback off, what you guys are saying about the inventions and everything like that. I think what people gotta realize too, man. I mean, music is just it ain't even really the tip of the iceberg. I mean, bro, I want people to really think about like what we've really done. I want you to understand that what we've done changed the whole entire world as we know it, bro. Nobody would be able to get to outer space if it wasn't for us, bro. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. If you see any of these countries basically saying, "Oh, we're gonna, take a flight and try to go to Mars or try to go to the moon or try to, go make a space station," anything dealing with outer space, that has so much to do with us. We came up with the mathematical computations to be able to get to outer space, bro. That alone just sets us apart. And then understand, every time y'all turn a doorknob today, every doorknob that you turn today, understand that we're the ones that created the doorknob. Just a simple doorknob. You don't even really think of, you know what I'm saying? That's all over the globe. The globe, as we know it, all over the goddamn world. Everybody uses a damn doorknob, bro. We're the ones that the modern day doorknob, we created that. So just to understand, like, people just don't understand how deep this really really goes. And understanding, I want you to damn a Elon Musk. We're supposed to have billionaires on top of billionaires with the type of stuff that we've created. I want you to just think. Just think about the type of money, the type of wealth that we've lost just based upon our inventions alone. Every doorknob that sell, every time somebody sends a spaceship up to Mars or something like that or whatever, we supposed to be getting paid for that.
Wait. I just want to say this. The men who patented those things, they got paid. So, um, we wouldn't get paid. It's just the inventor that gets paid.
Well, that goes back into the space, Wani. What did the air quote others create? To quote the late great Paul Mooney, the others created the patent office
Because you're supposed,
to steal our
yeah,
shit.
they're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of okay, yeah, okay, yeah, you've created it, but there's supposed to be some type of royalty or something that them people get to the point where it's just an ongoing thing. So that's
They
why.
do. The inventors do. Those men that created these things that we listed off, um, if they used them or if they sold them to a company, they did get paid. But, we're not going to get paid. They got paid. They got wealthy. They're well-known inventors that we listed off. Go ahead, Alonzo. We're not talking about the ones that got ripped off.
In addition to the inventors and the musicians, we also got to look at art. I have several books that are coming in next week. One of them is called The Harlem Renaissance and the Transatlantic Modelism. There are significant Black American artists who've had tremendous contributions to the art culture. I have two books coming in called Black Artists in America, from Civil Rights to the Bicentennial. And then there's another one, Blacks in Arts, goes on from Civil Rights to modern time frame. Again, these are Black artists. We won't be remiss without including the art as a component along with the music. Now, land.
Yes, we have some very prolific artists and authors, poets, and a lot of people that wrote some very beautiful material just after slavery. And we don't celebrate them enough. I don't know why. And I collected a list of them, and I've never heard of these people and before in my life. Architects as well. Go ahead, Mickey.
I don't know how true it is, but they said the guy that created the turn signals for the car, like he got fucked out of the patent by the judge. And by the turn.
Could be. I wouldn't, I'm not putting it past people. Inventions are areas where people get ripped off a lot. White people rip each other off and even kill each other over inventions. Some man invented some water powered engine and he took it to show it to some big car people thinking that they were just going to swap out their engine with his engine or with this type of, and he disappeared. Like he went in the office and disappeared. They said, "Oh hell no, you're not going to stop us from using gas and you're not going to change our engine around and make it water powered." And
Yeah, that's too much
he got
freedom. Like that's
he
challenging. Yep.
disappeared. His family was like, "What the hell?" Yeah. So they'll kill you. They'll steal your invention. But we're just focusing on the things that I like to focus on the things that we can prove and not the things we can't prove or that we got shafted out of because we've done so much that we could brag about. We have blown the socks off of everybody. There's no country that's going to come up here and say, well, we did this, this, and this. They didn't do anything in this country for America, and they didn't do anything in their country. They have to use the whole white race who stole everybody else's stuff. When you start talking about who really invented something, now we're going to go back to when they give credit to German people for being for being behind some of these powerful atomic bombs and weapons, well, guess what? They were over there looking at the Indian Vedas. They couldn't even hold it up on their own. They had to join all kinds of secret societies and the Vril and all this other stuff. And even the guy, when he um, created that atomic bomb, he said, I have become the destroyer of worlds and all this because um, he's quoting the place where he got the material. He knows where he got this from. You see, these people don't ever come up with something on their own. It's always them going over to Egypt, and they were not shy about writing about it. This is well documented over and over and over again, thousands of times. We went over to Egypt. We were in a mystery school. We did this. We did that. We came back with the scale for classical music as you know it. They always go over to Egypt, and when they're not going to Egypt, they're going to other places to obtain information, and then they present it in their package as them creating these bombs and these things. In reality, these people don't have that much to show for themselves. We have invented things out of nothing, just standing in a field, just out of nothing. No reference point, just out of nothing. No laboratories, no fancy backing. We're on par with German inventors in the United States of America. You know, German inventors were nurtured, patted on the head, paraded around. Look at how smart this white man is. We were inventing in slavery compared to them having um, sponsors and all kinds of laboratories and still blowing the heels off of all these people. Go ahead, 44.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got a quick question. So why does everybody hate FBAs then? What is the like if everybody else can get credit for what they've contributed to the society in this world? Why is it that FBAs are just hated on by everybody? I mean Caribbean, Jamaicans, white people, everybody. Why is that then?
I don't know, other than they don't have anything to show for themselves. One of the things that people do is if they can't do something, they have to make you disappear because it makes them look bad.
True. Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
it makes them look bad because I was listening to someone complaining about how she gave her family all kinds of money and they treat her like garbage and they hate her guts. Why is it that if you find somebody on the corner homeless and you take them to your house, clean them up, give them a meal, put them in rehab, why does that person hate your guts?
Yeah.
And it's because you're a witness to them being a loser. That's
Mm,
why.
good point. Good point. Good
Facts.
point.
You are a witness. You have taken this person out of the gutter. And although they're grateful for that, they don't want you to notice. That's why if I was a rich woman with a swimming pool and I had a pool boy and I said, you know what? I'm going to turn that guy into my husband. You see?
Yeah.
I'm going to get him some nice clothes. Now he's going to be in the main room. That would never work. Why? I like him. He likes me. Why doesn't that work? Because he gets more respect from a new woman that he meets that never saw him cleaning the pool.
Mm.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
I know he was the pool boy
Mm.
forever.
That's true.
And he's never going to feel on par with the lady of the house ever, no matter what position he has. Even if he has all the money in the world, he's always going to know she knew that I was a pool boy. And so he's going to feel much more comfortable dating a young woman that he met outside that doesn't know he was a pool boy. She just sees the fancy car and the new clothes that the other woman bought. See how that works?
Yes, ma'am.
This is the
Yeah.
problem with the foreigners. We are witness to them being losers. And every time I say, well, if you want to challenge our inventions, our sports, our music, then put your sports and music up there and your inventions. And then they start talking about Egypt. Really? You're from Nigeria. Why are you going to compare an entire continent to Black Americans? And white people start talking about all of Europe. Really? Why don't you compare your country? Because we're at a disadvantage here. We're not the whole United States. We're just talking about what we did and blowing their socks off. They have to use an entire continent to fight us.
Right, right.
Okay, I'm going to be letting some new
Mm.
people on stage. I just ask that you keep your mic muted since, so and raise your hand. I'm the black is the one that I recently let up on stage. If you are up here in their space, you can stay up here, but we want to let the new people speak first. So go ahead and raise your hand if you're new on stage. Thank you.
Yeah, Wani really, she dropped the mic on that shit. That's what it is. It's we remember you when you were that. And it's very unfortunate. I've thought to myself, should we just stop helping people?
Well,
Dr. John Henry
look
Clark.
at look at
Go
what
ahead.
Tariq goes through. Look at
Oh yeah. Oh
I've
man.
seen this happen to him so many times where he'll put somebody on, he'll give somebody an opportunity, and then they begin to resent him. The only thing I disagree with Wani is she says that they do appreciate you. You can't appreciate someone who you come to resent and almost hate, that you expect to put you on, that you expect to promote you. That you would not be anybody or anywhere without this person. Your broadcast or whatever you're doing, you wouldn't be seen without them, and now all of a sudden you hate them so much that you want to take them down. That's not appreciation. It's telling me that they had a goal when they met him.
Mm.
But go ahead, the black. You can go after Professor finishes speaking. The black.
Oh no, I was done. Y'all dropping the mic on me. I don't have nothing to say after that. It's true. Human nature.
The black. Go ahead. I'm pulling some people up too. Did the black fall down? Okay, somebody
Um,
pull the black back up, and I'm gonna pull your highness and up.
Can you hear me?
yes.
How
Go
you
ahead.
doing, Wani, Nikki,
I hear you, bro.
Professor, everybody else on the stage? Beautiful space. Uh, I posted in the jump in the chat Jane Reese Europe, and I posted him because he's considered the king of jazz, or the king, the pre-king of jazz, because most people, if you don't know what I'm saying, during the First World War, instead of letting us fight in the army, they let us play music around the world and do the hard labor. And he grabbed people from all across the country, know what I'm saying? And he combined so many different type of sounds to lay the groundwork of jazz. And when you read about him, it's so beautiful, because know what I'm saying, the 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 people that came from that band alone that he toured around the world with became some of the innovators of different genres of music that we play today, that a lot of people sample today. And if you didn't watch Dwan Bui little live earlier, he broke down a lot of important information when it comes down to our music, because everything is sampled from the same people. Like we ain't making nothing new. We just reinventing the same things our ancestors did. It's nothing new under the sun, and I truly believe that now. We are just putting a extra twang to it, a new accent towards. Know what I'm saying? What we have always been hearing from the
Just
work
like what we did with
songs.
the food. You're correct.
Yes, yes. We just putting a different, depending on what area of the country you in, you putting your twang to it. And that's the beautiful thing about our culture, because
wherever you at, you gonna recognize, know what I'm saying, that little twang. It may be a little different, it may be, know what I'm saying, a little throw, but when you embrace it, it's you. You understand it because that's where you come from. That's what we are. And I just want to land there. This is a beautiful space.
Appreciate it, bro. Speaking of twang, I wanted to talk about uh, WC Handy. When I hear the word twang, I kind of think of bluegrass. Right. When I was growing up in Alabama, bluegrass was completely associated with white males. You know, with their banjo and fiddles and right. Well, I was reading an article on WC Handy that shocked me. Let me find out where it says that. It says that on WC Handy, um, let's see, there it is. During his early years, Handy was, quote, during these early years, Handy was eager to hear good music that he took, so eager to hear good music that he took a job as a janitor in Henderson, Kentucky. Stop right there. WC Handy got a job as a janitor in Henderson, Kentucky, right? It says, quote, in order to hear an excellent German chorus of 100 voices, he swept the rehearsal hall. Handy did not neglect his own music. From time to time, he would play with small bands and minstrel groups. The cornet and trumpet were his favorite instruments. By the turn of the century, Handy's fortunes had improved to the point that he was invited to Alabama A&M to serve as director of music. So basically, what I'm saying is, after Handy left Henderson, Kentucky, bluegrass started to pop up. Now, the book also says that when W.C. Handy was in Kentucky, he was teaching jazz lessons to local white guys. It didn't say white guys, but we know who it was. Basically, W.C. Handy, a black man, created bluegrass, which is the whitest music you can think of. Where does it end, ladies and
Now,
gentlemen?
does it say when
Where?
he left? Because I have WC Handy as a a blues innovator and known for Memphis blues and St. Louis blues. So does it say when he did that? Because I have another man as being the first. Because I just have the first. I didn't put all of the people involved, but I want to put him in here. If you,
It doesn't get. It doesn't give me a year when he was in Kentucky, does it? Hold on, let me look again.
um, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't say a
Okay.
year. It says the year he was born, 1873, and it says 1928. He sponsored 60 voice chorus. 1930, he was a household name. It doesn't say that.
Now remember, white people are very jealous, and so they made fun of us eating watermelon because a black man had a watermelon, a very fruitful, no pun intended, watermelon crop. And he got jealous of it. Oh, you guys are eating watermelon. Yes, we are, because we have a big bunch of watermelons. Thank you, and go away, nosy white people. It's irritating having a permanent heckling session for everything that you're doing. And now we have Africans and Caribbeans in the heckling section as well. Um, anyway, another thing they made fun of us about was, guess what? Playing the banjo. Why? Because we can play the banjo better than them and had to show them how to play it. So that's one of the things. This guy named Arnold Schultz, yes, he has a German name for some reason, but he's black. A black American developed the Travis picking thumb style used in bluegrass, but um, all of the white bluegrass people claim that he taught them how to play this style So I'm going to look up the date just so I can see where WC Handy fits into this bluegrass development.
Okay, that would make sense.
Okay, that does make sense. If you are new to the stage, I will only call on you if your hand is raised, with all due respect. So if you just got up here, please raise your hand. Um,
But
Go
but
ahead.
but the point still remains the same, Wani. You told me that uh, a black man created
Yes, and I
bluegrass.
just want to, the only
Wow.
difference is going to be I'm going to add WC Handy with the correct dates, or he might be before this person. But either way, we already know.
I'm gonna have to infer on the dates. If he was born, and this is a terrible inference, if he was born in 1873 and he went to Alabama A&M, huh? See, I'm having to guess. Early 20s. What's 20 plus 1873? Let me just see. 20 to 70. That's 10. 10 is 19.
He might be
Shit. I
he
could say
might be before
19.
this guy because Arnold
Right.
Schwartz was doing this from the 20s to the 30s.
Oh wow.
1920s to
Yeah. He was.
1930s. So I'm going to really have to get down on it now.
W.C. Handy was there before then. Yep. Being followed around by
Hmm.
groups of white boys trying to learn
Hmm.
what he knew. Oh man, it's so frustrating. All the
No,
stuff we
it's
go through.
not.
Are you looking on the bright side,
Yes.
Wani? Okay, I'm gonna handle that.
It's not frustrating. We just have a heckling section that we have to deal with from every person on the earth because the same people that are heckling are the same people that have Inuit jazz and Turkish jazz and Baltic jazz and Slavic jazz and Turkish hip hop and all the rest of it. There's not one country that you can name that doesn't have a version of rock and roll, jazz, hip hop, or any other genre. And I didn't look them all up, but I know they all have a hip hop and a jazz version. I'm sure if I look up to see do they have some Scandinavian people playing blues, I bet you I'm going to find some Scandinavian people playing blues, no doubt. So all of those people who are uh, heckling us and mocking us and saying that we didn't do things that are recorded and literally trying to steal genres from us, they can't steal them. So don't even worry about that. Well, they cannot steal it because we recorded the music. We've been awarded for this music. We have recorded it, we have published it, and they can't do it. All they're going to do is make themselves look like the racists that they are. Who's next?
Yeah, I love my haters. I see where you're going with this.
Dr. Your Highness, and then Insane Hermit after Dr. Your Highness.
Peace, family. I hope everyone is having a good night.
Oh yeah, appreciate you.
We can't even hear.
What's on
We
your
can't
mind?
hear her.
Dr. Johannes, I can't hear you. I'm bring it back up. Let's see. I'm gonna bring it back up. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, do FBAs have all the music genres and inventors? Yes. Hello?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
listening
Yes.
to you.
Yes, I'm gonna say yes. Unfortunately, there's like a concerted effort to hide these accomplishments. And then even our I'm just praying for a lot of our successful FBA musicians and inventors. Like this movement is, it's being labeled. At first they label you, first they hate you, then. So I guess it's like We're pushing this thing, and I'm praying to see a change because even on the radio, I'm not really hearing us anymore. Um, FBA, successful FBA artists, they have to acknowledge our individual accomplishments. Like going forward, we have to be unapologetic in our accomplishments. I think we're so gifted that we kind of downplay it, but no, we're not downplaying this time. We're going to be proud, tell the children, teach the children because they're not teaching the children about the inventors in school. So
Nope.
on the side teach them, and read the books, watch the movies, and just continue to push, and especially for the ones that are successful, like our FBA artists right now that are like in the limelight. I'm just hoping that they start to be unapologetic, because if they're not, it's not gonna, it's just not gonna be good for us, because they're constantly dissolving our culture into others. So at this point it's almost like, you really have to say you're foundational Black American and be proud in saying that and not be ashamed. Like, and I I I I think back to BB King, and like, before he stopped doing the blues, he started to, you know, do like sessions with like different white artists, and you know that thing has to stop. Like, we have to pass the baton to those that are under us, and I think I don't know why that stopped, but that stopped in the 70s, and we have to bring that back. Like, all of these successful artists, all of these inventors, you have to come back to the grassroots and then bring those people up, and it also expose them to the world and shine our talents, our individual talents. I'm just hoping to see that in the future, because we are still inventing and we're still making music. Hopefully somebody in the near future can revamp all these radio stations, also our institutions, so that we can have accurate representation for foundational Black Americans. And I land my plane with that one.
I like something you said. You said dissolve our culture into other cultures. That's a class that I taught at Historical Black College. The class is an outright attack on Black history. The class is called multiculturalism. If y'all see that class, you see your children taking it, or you take it in college, or your children taking it in college, run away from that course, because that course creates the framework to dissolve Black history in a sea of other people's history. The basic premise behind the class sounds innocent. It's, we're not going to focus on one particular history. We're going to, instead of giving you 100% Black history, we're going to give you 10% LGBTQ history, 10% Asian history, 10% white history, 10% Hispanic history, and so on and so forth. So, what's the danger of it? The danger of it is, by the time the child is done reading the book and taking the exams, he don't know nothing about his own history. So,
Was it
I actually,
LGBTQ history in America? In
the
the
book just,
context of
what the book
America,
say?
or Chinese
They
history in
they
America?
That's a good
they've
question. I
been
just know it was a section in the
they've
book.
been
They talk about
they've
LGBT.
been taking regular history and looking at people and saying, "Hey, this person must have been LGBTQ," and then
We
they
sure
say,
have.
this is LGBTQ history." Go to some of these Go to some of these museums. They've got all of the LGBTQ stuff mixed in with the foundational Black American stuff. It is disgusting.
Yeah, and a lot of our, like, the people who's supposed to represent us, it's almost as if they're scared to say Black. They're scared to, like, we have to shake that off. Like, we got to be unapologetic in our Blackness. Like, even right now in Chicago, the school district is their focus is more on gender studies and having like bathrooms instead of like education, and that is like, it's just not right. Like, we need to, yeah, we're still, it's a
It's
fight.
it's an
It's a
attack.
fight but we're fighting, and we're going to be unapologetic, and they're going to have to accept this because we are here, we've been here, and we deserve to be respected. We deserve to have our own unique, distinct representation, and we deserve our reparations.
Yeah, I actually lost that job at the dream job because when I was put over, they gave me the command of multicultural education as a professor in the College of Education. I was over two different things: assessment evaluation, which is educational statistics. You know how teachers grade papers, and how do you? It's a real deep class actually. How do you analyze data and prescribe? Um, the proper techniques to help a child raise her grade. Anyway, long story short, they also put me over multiculturalism, which was a high honor. And when I read the book that I was supposed to assign, I saw what Nikki was talking about. I was like, what? I was like, 'cause the school I taught at was in the hood of Memphis, Tennessee, a very black city. And I had non-traditional students. I was in the college of education. I had several of my students were in their 60s. They were old, 40s and 60s. They were older than me at the time, but they were in teaching in the inner city schools. So, a lot of places will let you teach while you're working on your license. Well, they're coming to me to learn how to teach, and I'm teaching them out of a book that told them that Black history is irrelevant. So these young educators were around elementary school students who are want to know about themselves. That's a critical age, right? And they're not. I'm teaching them. They're not allowed to talk about Black history. So what I did was allowed. I'm gonna call him Dr. C. I'm not gonna say his name. He lost his job too. We all got fired. But Dr. C allowed me to write the book. So I wrote a whole nother book to address Black foundational Black American. Although I didn't use that term in the book, I had to say African American just to get it published with the college. Um, I talked about our history from our perspective and got by for a little while. That book is for sale if y'all want it. I have about 200 copies. Just go to my Cash App. It's Our Story Publications. It's on my page. If you click on my face, you'll see it. $ Our Story Publications, and put $25 in it, and I'll mail it out to you. But I learned a lot writing that book. I learned a lot about our history. I learned how deep it goes, and there's a lot of interesting things in that book. But I digress. I see a hand. Is that Welding?
I was supposed to go
Yes,
next, I
hi.
Um,
think.
Good evening. Good
actually,
evening.
Oh,
Um,
hold on. Weldon, let me make
oh,
sure I didn't skip somebody, love,
yeah, it
because
was
I'm
absolutely,
the
terrible.
absolutely.
next person. Yeah, for some reason their hands came down. Their hands were up.
Okay.
It was
Was
going
that
to be
his?
immortal,
Oh, I thought this was insane something.
insane hermits, and then I don't
Yes,
know who was
I
insane.
don't
Thank
then.
you.
even see a person named Immortal. Okay, this app is weird.
Insane. I accidentally said
Oh,
immortal.
okay.
I meant to say insane. And then
Oh, you
after
can call me
that,
immortal. That's okay.
Oh
is
Lord.
Hydra.
um,
Oh
Yeah.
Lord.
Here we go.
okay.
Yes.
I think it's good to put the inventions in context. And there was a lot of black inventions, but we've got to recognize that there
Hold
is
on a minute.
300,000 patents of invention.
Okay,
Bro
shut your
said, but
face. All right, I'm gonna shut it for you. Check this out. What did your bitch ass Australian ass invent, motherfucker? You tell me what the fuck your Australian ass invented right now. Spill it. You dumb,
I'll look it
you
up and I'll
Don't say
tell you.
the
boomerang. Don't
boomerang
say
from
it.
the.
you
Hey,
dumb
I'll look it
Don't
up and
say
tell you
it
in five
jailbird
because that
minutes.
ass.
wasn't
You
you.
are a jailbird stock son of a bitch. You didn't
We
invent
still created
nothing.
a first world
You no,
society,
you
even though
didn't. No,
we're
you
white
didn't.
people who were criminals.
No, you didn't. You went over there and beat people up and used people. Shut the hell up. You're nothing but another colonist. You didn't invent anything. You can't invent anything unless you're killing somebody else and taking their resources. Get the hell out of the room. I'm tired of listening to your
Yes,
dumbass
we took their
voice.
boomerang invention and created skyscrapers. Yeah.
What are you
Yeah, there's
talking
them
about, dude? Hold
Aboriginals.
on.
Come on, Professor, talk to him.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
address.
he
I'm
just
gonna
straight
address
up
this right there.
lied, talking about they invented skyscrapers or
Dumbass.
some shit like that.
You're done
Well,
ranting. Yeah, no.
let's talk about let's talk about the Australians because we he opened the door. So, ladies and gentlemen, when Captain Oglethorpe of the British Army released immigrants on America, um, the worst of those immigrants went to Australia. The worst. Now we got the degenerates and the debtors. Not my words; these are words of academic canon. Australia got the murderers and the psychopaths. So I was talking to our sister Wani months ago. This is really deep. We the so those of you don't I'm mid sentence on logic. What I'm talking about is in the 1600s the let's say 1700s the 13 colonies were getting overrun by Native Americans and uh, slaves and formerly enslaved people. Why? Because the enslaved people, Africans, would run away from the plantation and keep running until they ran into a Native American stronghold. They looked just alike, had similar cultures. Therefore, the slave was allowed to marry into the Native American culture, and they would perform counterattacks on the 13 colonies. Well, these counterattacks got so ferocious that Benjamin Franklin and the leadership class got scared and wrote home to Mama to come help us. They wrote home to England, and the Queen hired Captain Oglethorpe. There's a college named after him in Atlanta that black people go to. I don't know why, but they do. It's in Buckhead, actually. Well, Captain Oglethorpe came up with an evil but brilliant idea. He said, let's create a buffer class. Let's create a group in the middle that's going to do our bidding just to have freedom and have a couple of trinkets. Um, these group of people came from England and Scotland. Mostly they came from England, and they came from the prisons. You see, the Queen did not want that class of people over there in the first place. She didn't want criminals and pedophiles and degenerates and debtors. So she got rid of them and sent them. The worst of them went to Australia. Now he's talking about inventing something. Let me get in his butt for a second. The Australians, the people who became the Australians, were so ferocious that when they hit the Aboriginals, they had a tactic for domination, which is why he's speaking with his chest out because he feels special. Let me tell you why he feels special. Their tactic for domination was to go over there and castrate the men in front of the women, and they would bet money on how fast it would take for the men to bleed to death. Once all the men were dead, they would look for the male children, the male infants, and they had another type of contest. They would bury the male infants neck deep in the sand and bet money on who could kick the baby's head off the furthest. That those tactics created so much outrageous fear that in the they let all the females survive. That's the tactic. You let the females survive, just like horses, because a female, once children are born, are going to automatically warn the children to be fearful and to respect the group that killed them. You see what I'm saying? It's so insidious. It's unreal. But that's why he's feeling so happy and so carefree and light, because the survivors of that Holocaust basically start to worship the colonizer. And what I was saying earlier is, and I'll end on this, is Wani was telling me, but I've never been to Australia, but she was, what you call the black people over there? What they're
Black
called
fellas.
something.
Aboriginal.
Aboriginal.
Black
Yeah.
fellas, yes. Wani said that they're and I'm paraphrasing you, Wani, you can cut me off and correct me, but she said that their attitude was almost kind of like broken. And immediately when she told me that, as compared to us, we have a fighting spirit because we actually had a chance to fight, um, and gain that type of confidence. But they never had a chance. I mean, there are whole jurisdictions where nobody survived. Tasmania, that those maniacs killed everybody, like everybody. So, but she was saying that their spirit is still broken, and that was real hard to
And
hear.
one more thing for Professor, like the way that the women who have witnessed that, they have a lack of trust in the men in their culture as well. You know what I'm saying?
That's what we're dealing
Exactly.
with in
Come on now.
America. Hell, yes. That's the problem with black relationship. One of the biggest problems is that lack of trust between man and woman, and it's just not fucking fair. But like it's deeper, and then it's reinforced by media. I'm gonna end on this before I get triggered. Vicky, our sister Vicky Dillard said America is the prettiest battleground on the planet, and she's right. We're on a fucking battleground. It just looks really nice. We got Starbucks and McDonald's and Kroger's. But I digress. I'm gonna end before I get triggered.
Did you speak, Highland?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in, like saying it translates from culture to culture. You know, like the women of the like once a man does something as vile as kicking a child's head off of their body and castrating a man, same thing they did in America with us in chattel slavery. It makes the woman who survives not trust in the strength of their mate. If that makes sense. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yes, and that was intentional. That's the insidiousness, is these people thought through that. They want to sow division between a man and women. How are you ever gonna trust your man when you see your man running around holding their private parts dying while people are kicking the baby's heads off? That's gonna, on a deep psychological level, that's gonna make you hate your men. You know that, and brothers, that's what we're dealing with on a certain level in the
well, it
battlefields of
ain't
the
the
United States
same
of
now
America.
though, Professor. I'm gonna talk to you. Anyways, I'm gonna
You see
digress.
how bitch made they are when they don't
Go
have a
ahead.
gun. They'll cross the street when they see us on one side of the road. Like that's how fearful they are without a weapon. So I don't even understand how people are still like.
Yeah, dude.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. And like Dr. Wilson said, what did she say that Europeans call the gun? The great equalizer. Why so? Because it's competing with genetic annihilation coming from the genetic dominant material, you know, uh, reproductive material in the black man. Like, this is subconscious. This shit is deep. You know what I'm saying? They went and created a gun to compete with your ability to have children. You know what I'm saying? So, uh,
Daner like David and
we're
Goliath,
dealing
no
with
doubt.
something. Yeah.
Wellsing is next.
Hi everybody. Can you hear me? Robin?
Hey, well,
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
hey,
Hey.
Hello.
Wilson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, how you doing? Wani, when that man got off the mic and I heard his accent, I said, "Oh God, this is not going to end well." And as soon as you open up your mouth, I'm on the 405 freeway. I'm not lying to you. I'm on my father's day. I swerved into the next lane. I was like, "Okay, this is not."
Why
Anyway,
causing car
oh
accidents?
dear God, it was a classic. But Um, I want to share just a quick story. If you were talking about Australia, I have a friend of mine, which is a colleague of mine, who her dad came out to LA many years ago. He has since passed away, but he was not Jewish. He was a Polish man whose family was in the concentration camp. Wasn't Jewish, by the way. I think I said that maybe. But he survived it. I think when he came out, he was about 14, 15 years old. But he could not find his mother, father, and his sister ever again. But what was interesting, you talk about Australia, um, is that he said that he got a ticket to go to Australia. And he didn't know. He was just by himself, and he got this ticket to go to Australia. And when he went to some port, and I don't know where this was, in Europe, um, an American soldier who happens to speak Polish said to him in Polish, uh, "Where are you going?" And he looked at his ticket and he says, "No, don't go to Australia." He goes, "There are animals over there." He says, "They're going to put you on a farm and work you to death." He says, "Here, take this." And it was a ticket to go to America. He goes, "Go to America where you could be anything you want to be." So when you were saying that, it reminded me of that story about Australia when you were telling. But anyway, I wanted to say with regards to music, I wanted to say, why do you think they have removed most music programs from elementary and high school, it's really because Black students have a natural affinity to music. They don't, in music history, as far as Black people are concerned, they are the forefathers of some of the greatest genre of music, self-taught and became some of the greatest musicians of all time. They took those programs away to diminish the effect of music. Black people move the needle when it comes to music, and always have. And that's what I was when I was listening to this. I'm like, this is why music programs have all but died, because really Black people have taken advantage of those programs and have excelled in it far beyond their capabilities. And to Wani's point earlier, it's because of jealousy, only because of jealousy. See, I just wanted to add that, and that's
You know
my thought.
what's so,
Thank you.
thanks, Wellsing. What's so weird about it is that playing an instrument helps you, it creates new brain, what do you call those? Connections.
Neural pathways.
Yeah.
Synapse, right?
No doubt. Yeah, neural synapse.
Okay,
So it's
yes,
connections
that's
between
that's
neurons
more
in your brain.
advanced than what I was going to say. But whatever it
Oh, okay, my
creates,
bad.
it's like learning a new language. It has the same effect in that it makes a student. I think it's horrible to take it out. I think it's horrible for everybody, for every race, because it's good for your brain to do it. And it's a good hobby. It's good for people of all fitness levels. I think it was a shame to remove those types of things from schools. And they claimed, oh, we don't have the money for it. But I don't believe that. I really don't. And I don't know why we don't have the money. We have the money to let all the students sit up there while people learn to speak Spanish and then English, and then all of our students go fall by the wayside waiting for foreigners to learn how to speak.
Oh, and we got the money for football programs and to pay coaches $5 million a year. It's bullshit. What you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is a caste system being reinforced. Um, like Wani said, and like somebody else said in the space earlier, maybe Welsing. Um, Music and arts, they're mathematical. They bridge the gap. There's studies after study after study showing that learning how to play the piano increases your ability to understand complex mathematics. You think that people don't know this in the school system? They know. They look at data and they correlated fine arts with higher scholastic achievement. Even drama studies show that in the hood, in the poor, what educationally we call low SES, social economic status. I'm just gonna say the hood. In the hood, having a theater course or drama is very effective because them kids can, go in that room and just, act out a skit and scream. And what are you doing? You're releasing steam. You're calming down. It's therapeutic. So, but they remove all that because they want, allegedly, they want y'all right where they got you. What I'm saying, stuck in cycles of poverty, man, and it's getting worse in this country,
And
actually.
also,
Yeah.
playing an instrument
I
relieves
Go ahead.
stress. Be
Right,
expressing
right,
yourself is good for your mental health. Acting, dancing, playing an instrument, and
right.
possibly learning a new language. I don't know whether that one falls under it, but definitely when you're in grief counseling, they want you to do something to express yourself. So they want everybody bottled up and ignorant, and that's exactly what we have.
Exactly what we have. I'm gonna ask Welsing a quick question. Welsing, did you receive the book yet?
You know what? I have been so busy and overwrought with work at home because my whole family is literally descending upon me tomorrow for the holidays. So I will check it tomorrow, okay? And I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah. Just make sure
Because
if you
you know
don't get
what,
it.
the one thing that I'm thinking about is that I may order some more for my niece and nephew. So I'll
Okay,
get back with you, okay?
okay.
Yeah,
I'm just
I'll
making
do
sure you
that.
got it. All right.
Yes, no problem. Thank you so
You
much.
you're welcome. Bye bye.
And I just wanted to say something real quick. I don't want to sound extreme, but to those who have children, if you're an uncle, auntie, we really have to be very, very intentional about the music being played, because if they don't want foundational Black Americans to have, if they don't want us to be seen in entertainment, then why should we let play them around our children? Why should we play them at our events? Why should we support them if they won't let our people, our tribe, be seen and heard and recognized in a dignified way like we used to be? You know, like it used to be about skill, and now we're like being, people are cosplaying us and exploiting us. And I just feel like we have to like turn it off. Like I find myself, if I get in the car with my children, I'm turning, if I, as soon as I cut the radio on, I just turn it off and put on something else. Put on jazz or put on some old school stuff, you know, and they like that. Like sometimes they don't even say anything actually. They don't say nothing. So that lets me know that they do want to hear real music. And so I just feel like as a tribe, we have to like, if they don't want, if we can't be seen, then they can't be heard.
Right, right. You made me think of a video I saw, and hopefully somebody else in here has seen it, of Cardi B. Who saw the video where she was playing some very vulgar song that she recorded? I don't know
Hmm.
her song, but and then her daughter, her like 2-year-old daughter, walked up and she turned the radio off. I'm like, your music is too violent and sexually charged for you to let your daughter listen to it, but you're gonna make it for our daughters. You see how this
And they come
works?
to our schools and everything.
But that's
Right.
for us to
You know
do.
what?
That's
Go
for
ahead.
us to do the same thing she's doing.
Elaborate. What do you
Well,
mean?
she's not letting her daughter listen, so we can't let our
Right.
children
Okay.
listen. We can't expect the public to um be the parent. Yeah,
Raise our
you
children.
can't do that. It's up to us. I mean, like I use the analogy, when white children go to school, they're white and they're learning basically English history. They're not all English. Some of them are Polish. They're not learning Polish history. They're not learning Swedish history. Now, we should learn Black American history because we are the history here. We have a huge part of it, but it's still our job to teach our children. If I'm a Swedish mother and I want my children to learn about Viking heritage, they're not going to learn it in a school. They're not going to learn that. So it's my job to teach them about that. And it's our job to teach our children, and of course, still insist that they uh, you know, speak about Black American history and our inventions and all of our sports legends and us winning the Olympics all the time and all of the music and all of the entertainment history, the golden age of Hollywood, all of those things, and our inventions with um, those projectors and those early movies. We have everything to do with all of these things. There would not even be a West Coast. Like we were talking about the Buffalo Soldiers, there wouldn't be a Midwest to live in if some Buffalo Soldiers hadn't gone and pushed through, made the state parks, cleared all the state parks, got rid of the poachers, got rid of hostile Native Americans, and pushed west. There would be nothing west if we did not do those that groundwork here. We have everything to do with this country. There's nothing that you can even name anymore because every time we name something, like someone said something about tipping. Tipping is because white men were so butthurt and salty that they refused to pay Black Americans a wage. They were like, I'm not going to put this slave on my payroll. I refuse to pay this person. So they told the guests, just give them tips, just give them a little bit of money. If you like the service that they provided, we have everything to do with tips based on their racism.
Wow, that's amazing. So we created tipping as well.
That's definitely why, like, I don't know what they were doing in the UK, maybe they did give people extra money, but the reason that we get tips is because they refuse to pay salary to us. And the guests were told, this was like in a hotel setting or in a service setting, and the guests were told, you just give them some money on the side, and they called it tips.
Wow, that is amazing. That's amazing. Oh, okay. You got some scholarship on that, Wani?
Yes.
Like that, I've never heard that
I can
before.
definitely see it though, Professor. You know what I mean? Like gratuity, being
I believe it.
like
I
being
just
gracious for the service, even though they're not getting paid, they're still helping. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. If that makes sense.
God dang that, and that goes in. That was unintentional, Wani. But if that goes in the title, then we created everything. We created tipping. That's ridiculous.
Can I jump in for a second?
Wow. Go
I had my
ahead.
hand up. Just that previous speaker from Australia. A lot of times, those folks come into our spaces and they rattle off all kind of rhetoric. The first thing I would do is tell them straight away, hey, stop. Post your receipts in the jumbotron, and if you don't have anything, don't speak on it. And we don't have to go into all this, spill about. We know the history, and they want to come in with a racist ideologies and try to impose that on our society, and that's a no no. I mean, that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree with your thoughts.
Okay, who was next? The Black, you could go ahead again. If anyone else wants to speak, please raise your hand.
Uh, I just want to add the Buffalo Soldiers. They had infantry that started the was the first ones to ride bikes that modern well was the beginning of what we call the motorcycle corps. But they rode bikes from Montana to Missouri, and they helped. You know what I'm saying? Develop a lot of towns going towards the Midwest. So one is right. The Buffalo Soldiers, they innovated a lot of things. And another thing when it comes down to art and theater, we got to remember the cartoon. The basis of the cartoon is of black people. Cab Calloway was the first cartoon character. You know what I'm saying? They used the chronoscope, which was a device to draw moving objects and record them. He was that. He was the basis of that. And I put the video of that in a chat too. It's just we have a lot of unique history, and when you break each part of the country down and look at each state and what black people have done, you can't deny the receipts, the history. Is inedible. Like and it's so fascinating and beautiful. Like we have to cherish this and pass it on to the next generation so they can have pride and understand that this is our land. No matter what nobody say, it's nothing part of this world or America period that you can't find a black fingerprint on it. And I'll leave it there.
Love it. Highland.
Yeah, I just want to throw a quick input. Like even Bass Reeves, like born a slave in Arkansas. I mean, what we've done, like bro just said, is unfathomable, man. Like, it's I can't believe we really did it, man. I'm a land there. It's wild, man.
It's a lot to be proud of.
Absolutely.
Who is next? Well, since we're talking about do FBAs have all the music, let's talk about Paul Robeson. Talk about a multi genius. Paul Robeson um, went to Rutgers University. After he graduated, Roberson went to Columbia Law School, right? Paul Roberson was a singer, played football, was an actor. I mean, an attorney, right? Like Just a multi genius. Like that's what we have running through our veins. We have a potential for excellence that's unmatched running through our veins. My question is, how do you tap into that potential? What's the first step?
Acknowledging it,
Okay. Well,
talking about it.
how do we? Well, we're old. I'm talking about with the
I
kids.
think with the kids, so this the thing, because like I'm in education and I'm actually yeah. So this is the thing.
Okay.
This just what I think. I think that with the children, because they're being socially programmed in these schools. So that's the
Totally.
problem. So they're not really learning, y'all. They're being socially programmed. So even if you don't listen to the type of music or the culture in your house, when they go to these schools, that's why you be wondering, like, what's wrong? Why are they acting like? Because they being socially programmed through the culture. Because the schools are in cahoots, so they try to make our kids. Everybody want to make Black American kids look like the bottom of the barrel, but they enforce these stereotypes on them through the system. Like, how can you play Sexy Red around my children at the school? I have written letters to principals because they're playing like drill music and stuff. Like, this stuff is affecting us. Like, why are you playing it as an educator? You are a doctor. Why are you playing this music? I have to go back and forth anyway. But on the side of that, so even though, because sometimes I talk to my children about this all the time, and they be like, man, you tripping, you doing too much, you saying, but they are listening. So I just keep talking about it, and they're listening. Because when my children, when they do go out in the world, they're telling people, like, somebody asked one of my kids, like, what do you mix with? And she was like, I don't know, foundational Black American. And the boy was a teenager, was like, what's a foundational Black American? You see what I'm
What?
saying? So it's happening. We just have to keep talking about it, be unapologetic about our greatness, and keep teaching. I got kids watching a documentary with Tariq, and I'm about to get your book too, Professor. And we just gonna keep circulating the greatness, keep passing it on, and just keep educating, and yeah, keep doing the work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are starting to find out who we are. I don't know how many people chimed in to Fat Joe's recent comments, but he said I don't want to give them credit or shine, but I'm I guess they're the FBAs, they're the foundational Black authorities. So and then he starts saying their leader. Of course we don't have a leader, but he actually admitted to watching the new Black media. He knows who TBA is. He knows who Tariq Nasheed is. They follow us. They take notes off of us, and they are mad because they can't just blatantly copy off of us anymore. So I'm proud of your child for saying, "Hey, I'm a foundational Black American. We're putting a name on it now."
She be tripping on me the hardest too. Ain't that something? you notice
Foundational
how he
Black
didn't.
Apartheid.
You notice how he wouldn't call us American.
Who?
He
Hmm.
just
Oh,
said
He
authority.
yeah.
he yeah yeah yeah, they
He
are
was just a
spazzing
dummy.
out. Yeah, his fat ass.
Hey, yo,
Mm-mm.
Professor Nikki and Wani. Also, I'm from Texas, so I don't know if y'all know the white dude Paul Wall, badass rapper. But he
Yes.
he, he
Yeah, yeah,
acknowledged
yeah, yeah.
FBA as well. I didn't know if y'all knew that or not on
Didn't he
our
say
interview.
he
Paul
was,
Walt
he thinks
back in the
Yeah,
he's
day.
Yeah,
black?
no, he no, he acknowledged FBA the term like recently on an interview.
Yeah, he was
yeah,
on the
he
Yeah.
interview.
did.
I was gonna ask, he said that he was black.
Who,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Wall?
Oh yeah, he said
Why?
he
Cause
didn't even know
he
Mm.
it
sleep with
until
black women.
yeah.
Was he from a black neighborhood?
That's
Yeah,
We
he's from
we
I
have
don't
we
know.
have
he's
a
from a black
few.
that's a whole
neighborhood.
white man.
Okay, so
His wife is black
Yeah, it
American.
said he was
I
born in
want to
Georgetown,
chime in
Texas. So
on
I'm
I
not
want to
sure.
chime in on that because in where I used to hang out, like I hung out in another neighborhood away from my other neighborhood where my house was. but my friends lived in another neighborhood nearby. Anyway, we had these white boys in the neighborhood because no neighborhood is really all black. So there were some white boys there, and we nicknamed them all White Boy. So then we started to get confused because there was just more than one white boy. Anyway, these guys, they really did think they were black. I mean, it's some kind of disorientation because one of them, this is like a long time ago, called me and asked me to bail him out of jail, and I was like, no, just stay in there. It's only one day. And he said, and I'm going to quote, they don't know I'm black. Like, I'm going to get beat up by everybody in here because I got all these Crip tattoos on me. So all the white boys are going to beat me up. The Mexicans are not going to like me. And the black guys don't know I'm black. And I was like, you're not black. You're like 100% white. But he really grew up to believe that he was black. I knew him like when we were children. Like, why does he think why do they think they're black? I was like, they're solid white.
Oh
It
no,
was an
that's a good
honest, and
question.
he was honestly saying this. Like, they don't understand. Well, you can't go around saying you're black. I didn't remember him doing that when we were little. Well, we didn't go around announcing our races when we were young. We were just what we were. But he really grew up to believe he was black, and he was calling everybody who he thought could bail him out of jail when he was only in there for a few hours. Is that how
Very
Paul
fascinating,
Wall
Lonnie.
is?
Yes,
Um,
and yes,
I go
yes,
ahead.
and he has a black wife.
Okay, yeah, he's one of those type of people that really identifies for real.
Yeah, I was about to say Paul Wall kind of something about him from my childhood. He seemed authentic.
Yeah, he fully took on that character. And I also, this is a weird take, but I think it might happen to us sometimes too, growing up around a people that don't look like you. Because you don't really see your reflection. You see what you're looking at. You don't really see yourself, especially at a young age. And then I also wanted to point out like the Greek mythology of like Narcissus, like the dude who fell into the pond and died, looking at his own reflection. It all kind of ties in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That those mythologies, which are I don't want to get off topic, but they're borrowed. Be nice. They're borrowed from comedic philosophies, but yeah, they get really deep. Looking at his own reflection, that psychology is used to talk about something else, but I'm not gonna do it because I get Nikki's page straight. I hurt my page too, but that falling in love with your own reflection has been used to describe a whole nother thing.
Now, do you know how the greatest empires of the world were built?
No, I don't
The
think any of us
greatest
know.
sports
I'm
empires, that is.
gonna say no
Well,
again.
here in America, just remember when Black Americans were freed from slavery, um, a lot of people didn't know what was going to happen. So all eyes had been on us for the whole time. They didn't know what was going to happen. Are they going to run amok and kill all these people? Are they going to just, blend in? What are they going to do? So everyone was looking at us and what we're going to do. So some of the things that we did was we had these sports spectacles where a black man and a white man would fight. And this was like, you know, the first time you could fight on a sportsman level, like an even playing ground where the person can't kill you because you beat them up or lynch you because you beat them up. That wouldn't be sportsmanlike. So these types of events were very popular. And so that's how the interest in sports with Black Americans was generated because white people were participating, in the Olympics, we were not allowed to because we were enslaved. But when we first did participate, um, we first started um, getting into the Olympics. Uh, our first medal was like 1904, and that was track and field. Um, but this type of excitement around beating us is what makes the sport popular. Because when they were playing with just white people in football, or just white people in baseball, or just white people in basketball, it didn't have the same excitement. Not only that, we're the excitement. So we were playing in the Negro Leagues, and it was very popular for something that was like just made by um, people with no resources. It was wildly popular and getting attention from the white leagues. That's why they were over there. Did you know there was one white man on the Negro Leagues? They just can't stay away. They just can't do it. It's a very amazing phenomena. Anyway,
Yeah, almost, but they got to come right
most.
back. It's almost.
So they saw.
Paul Mooney had a funny joke about that. So they wake up in the middle of the night. I can't say it. I don't want to get a strike on the page, but they wake up in the middle of the night and N words, N words. What are the N words
They
doing?
must, because it's just too much. We would never, I will predict this and I'll take bets on this. I'll bet any amount of money anybody wants to put up. There's no way, like they say they want to have their own part of America. No, you don't, because you already had that and you couldn't stay out of our part of America. You already had your part of America, and all of you wanted to come over and see what we were doing with jazz, what we were doing with this, what we were doing over in the Negro League. So we're not interested in you, you're interested in us. And when one team broke and they said, well, we want one of those magical Negroes on our team, you see, the other people couldn't be outdone. And they said, well, we have to get one of those super Negroes too. And then they said, well, we'll just get two super Negroes. Ha, we got you. And then the other team said, well, we're going to get three. How about that? And this is how all of this interest in sports was built up. A lot of it is rooting against us. We're probably the only country where the other members of the country root against us and that harms them. They don't get the gold medal. So we have, I remember noticing this when Debbie Thomas was skating. All the white people were rooting for Katarina Witt. I think she was, I forget where she was from, Germany maybe. They wanted the white girl to win skating. Of course, they didn't want Venus and Serena to win. So they will root against their own group, and they root against us in the military when we're fighting on their side. Um, we have been really in a very strange position in this country, to be honest. But I just wanted to go over some of the sports. We already know that we have, legendary people in track and field, legends in boxing. Um, some people may not know that we were the first Hall of Fame, we were the first Kentucky Derby winners. Now, they didn't realize that the jockey was going to be popular. They're just like, we'll just put this little black guy on top of this horse, and he's the trainer, he's the groomer, he's everything. And oh, by the way, just get on the horse and ride it. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. But when they started winning, and they started getting accolades, then the Jim Crow laws started to stop them from. But they have the in the history books, they're the first ones. It was a collection of black jockeys who won. We have a cycling um, world champion cyclist back in from 1901 to 1909, and we tend to dominate these sports. We're not known for cycling, but we could cycle. Baseball, you already know about. We had the free blacks from the United States of America that founded the Canadian Colored Hockey League. of the Maritimes, 1895. So that's a sport we're not associated with, but we won. But way before Venus and Serena, there was Lucy Diggs Slow. And she was a tennis player along with Ora Washington, Althea Gibson, and these a couple of these women were basketball players and tennis players professionally. We've been having a presence in tennis, but some of these women were not able to compete in all of the events because they could say no, we don't want to play against her. They could say no, and so they have tons and tons of titles, but they didn't reach their full potential because of racism. So, you know about basketball. I don't need to talk about that. We have basketball legends. We have lacrosse legends. We're in the Hall of Fame for that. We have we got gold medals in soccer. Brianna Scurry, she's a world champion, Olympic gold medalist. We have a gold medal in beach volleyball and water polo and bobsledding. Vanetta Flowers is the first Black American athlete to win a gold medal at the Winter Olympics. We have gold medals in ice skating and speed skating. With
Hmm.
we have awards in fishing. Believe it or not, yeah, fishing
Wow.
champions. We're the Paralympics, decathlon winners. We have, and I found a new one recently. We have a wrestling gold medal in wrestling, 1973. Again, we don't dominate wrestling that kind in the Olympics, but we have a gold medal in it. It's really insane. The sports that we have gold medals in. We have a this is a new one that I found. This man's name is John Davis. He's the first black weightlifter to medal in the Olympics 1948 and 1952. Undefeated 8-time world champion across 3 decades. Never heard of him. He was inducted into the United States Olympic and Paralympic Hall of Fame. We have all kinds of martial arts champions. We have a fencing champion. He won a gold medal in 1894. We have archery champion, first black U.S. archery champion, 2017. We have mountaineers. Um, let me see, Matthew Henson being the most popular one. He reached the North Pole in 1909, and he was overshadowed by the guy that he went up to the North Pole with. Yeah, he was overshadowed because he was black, but he definitely was there. Um, we have Wendell Oliver Scott, the first black racer to win a race in the Grand National Series, and the inspiration for the film Grease Lightning, and that's NASCAR. He's in the Hall of Fame. Of course, we have gymnastics. We've been having a lot of Black American gymnasts over decades. We have ballerinas, and we have Misty Copeland, who really broke through that wall. We used to have to go over to Europe to dance, and we have very elegant dancers over in Europe. But now Misty can dance here and not be oppressed, hopefully. We have championship bodybuilders. Now, this is different than weightlifting. This is like building up your muscles and competing. And this man, Ronnie Coleman, dominated that sport from 1998 to 2005, Mr. Olympia 8 times. So he was tearing it up. And we also have other Black American bodybuilders that were on these strength magazines. We have pro skateboarders, 1975. We
Wow.
have roller derby stars, 1958. We have won double Dutch League championships since 1974. We have chess masters. We have checkers masters. We have, what's his name? Cicero Murphy, first Black American to win national and world champion billiards titles. We have Phil Ivey, who is a poker champion Hall of Fame. We have a guy named Jerome Wooten, a black multi-tournament world champion from 2009 to 2024, ranked the best in the world by the Professional Domino Association. We literally had a guy named Brian Valentine who represented us uh, in World Champion Monopoly. What are we doing? Are we crazy? We're doing too many sports, people. Now we have a gold medalist in swimming, Cullen Jones, and most people don't know that. They think that we have heavy bones. Isn't that what they said? Oh, black people can't swim. They have heavy bones. Yes, we can. Okay, be quiet. We have surfing champions now. These guys, all these surfing champions, they are responsible for a lot of the footwork that you see on the surfboards today. They all have mixed backgrounds. So two of them have a Hawaiian mother. The fathers were stationed in Hawaii, and one of them has a Mexican father, but they were Black American. And I checked out their lineage. The one guy in the 50s, he had a Black American mother and a Mexican father, and the other guys are in Hawaii, and they are like the very, very popular, even though I didn't know this, in surfing. Um, we have a black polo team called Work to Ride. So we have a polo champion, and of course we have tons of rodeo cowboys. We have a lot of rodeo stars. We're still doing that now, and we've been doing that for a long time since the 1800s. We have a bowling champion, world champion, Black American man, and we have won the first um, spelling bee champion in the United States of America in 1908 was a little Black American girl, and they were so mad at that girl. They had a newspaper article, and they called her like, you're too skinny to win. They said she was just, who is this scrawny little girl that just outspelled everybody? And of course, we have Bessie Coleman, the first Black American woman to hold a pilot's license. Some say she's the first woman to hold one as well. And we've won awards in everything: Oscars, Grammys, Emmys, Tonys, Golden Globes, beauty pageants, Nobel Peace Prizes, military honors, awards in dancing, choreography, art, literature, teaching, humanitarianism to the present day.
Yep. There it is. Anybody else? Savannah, what's on your mind? Hold on. Was it Savannah or am I skipping somebody? Going once, going twice. Go ahead, Savannah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
I'm good. How are
How
you?
you doing?
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you, Professor Nick Rewani, for hosting this space. I just wanted to comment on the Paul Wall not knowing he was black. In sixth grade, we there was this Japanese girl who got adopted by a FBA family. In sixth grade, like I swear to God, she did not know she was black. She was not black, and we had to break it to her, and it was a traumatic thing. Like she had to take some time off from class. Like that's how bad it was. And we innocently thought she was joking. So I ran into that, and then I ran into the inverse in college, where this well, now realizing he was really African, but he got adopted by a white family, and it wasn't until college he realized he wasn't white, and I just find all that shit. That's it's just I don't know. That's crazy, but it happens.
That is such a weird dynamic. I can't even understand how that is. Is it kind of like when you're a man trapped in a woman's body or vice versa? Is it something like that? Or when you have you're like, what do you call it when you don't want to eat? Uh, Anorexic, and you think you're fat, but you're really very skinny. and you're about to die? Is it like that? I mean, it must be something dramatic because they're
Like
serious.
bulimia.
Well, no, anorexia. Oh, I
Okay, I
think
get them
bulimia is the
confused.
one when
Bulimia is
you
when you throw
throw
up,
up.
right?
Yeah, but you throw up with the
Right.
anorexia too. So I don't know. I
Wow.
think it goes hand in hand.
I think with anorexia, you're hiding that factor
Now,
that you don't want people
you
to see.
become anorexic when you by way of
Throw up.
bulimia. Yeah, the bulimic people they have to every meal they force themselves to throw up, then they become anorexic, like skinny or some shit.
Okay, who's next?
Mm, I see Path of Justice. You got his hand up?
Yeah, I hope y'all can hear me on the headset.
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, well, thank you again. Two steps back, as usual. Professor A, Wani, Nikki, and everybody else is contributing to well seen, at least a few other people I recognize in here. Anyway, again, thank y'all for your contributions. Your work is amazing, and I think we take for granted some things like Black empowerment and those of us who have genuine love for those things and for the development and further prosperity of our people. So thank y'all for all that you contribute. Uh, Introductories aside, I want to take one step back. I think Wani introduced something that was very interesting, at least to me. And I don't know how much of these concepts actually permeate with other people or reflect in reality. But she was talking about the fact that schools already recognize that language or music was essential towards neuro linguistic programming and the expansion of our minds and our intellectual capacities. I thought that was a very astute but very realistic or very important kind of conversational topic. And what brought me back to that, I guess, was two subpoints under that point. And I can't remember the specific definitions of neuralistic programming. I haven't seen some of that since like undergrad. You take some of these basic or advanced psychological and biological courses, especially biopsych psychology as one course where they talk about that definitely. But it's the importance of the concepts of the brain's ability to learn concepts and plasticity, i.e., how it can adapt and mold in ways that can increase learning or support the learning that it does have. So I had a family member who had a stroke, like many of our we do, and they had very bad aphasia, severe aphasia, where they weren't sure if they could ever speak again. But I remember that course and what we were taught, at least on the undergraduate level, regarding NLP and plasticity and aphasia. Some people recover for aphasia. So I was talking to some of the healthcare providers after everything was stabilized, and they were talking about, yeah, they had heard about that and that there may have been some resources. So I took it on my own half, and there's software courses and other courses you can get that actually focus on NLP and plasticity. So I got that family member those resources, and you started having a lot of returns on investment fairly immediately. And you never know, because if that was essential towards the recovery of those skills. So I think we need to be thinking about not only that for the healthcare process or healthcare side of things, but also within the development of children and our own people. And I mentioned that for the second subcategory of thought that I had, which was regarding that Australian guy who was coming up here. It is clearly, a racist bigot trying to do manipulative tactics. But I was thinking that under NLP, you have maybe we need to start thinking of speech and even neurological conversation and even other dimensions. And I don't know if this is just a new thing in my brain or something that's more real, but I was thinking like I don't know, just throwing out a term like reality neural programming and or neural communication. Like let's just say RNC as a communicative term, which means that you're taking your realistic experiences from you and your people and otherwise, and you're communicating that honestly, a means of expanding the mindset. So that means that for those of us who believe in Black empowerment, we need to not convey our experiences through our music and otherwise culture and just education system as a means of opening up our mental capacities and keeping them open. And why another reason, if that is a individual concept that is in reality, reflective in the mind and social conditions and how we adapt our people, it explains why our culture is very different from these other cultures. Like I remember my ex as toxic.
Talk more about that. That's interesting. Talk more about
Yeah,
that.
so like, let's go into a third category of that part of the conversation. So I remember talking to my ex, and she would be like, "Why do you care about my son so much?" And I was like, "Well, it's to me, it's obvious to me because my grandparents on both sides, if somebody in the neighborhood had problems, they would take that kid in their home as their own for until that other parent got them back on their feet. So to me, this is as natural as breathing air. So these elements used to be very common, not just in my family, but in our community. This was normal-ish. So when we're reflecting on those of us who've kept those traditions of Black empowerment, community, and such in our communication, we're speaking a reality of our truth, but also reality of what exists in reality. And that is part of our understanding and how it affects how we think and process information. So let's go to the negative side of that. Well, let's just make up another language, another term, manipulative linguistic programming. So let's just talk about that Australian guy. If he was going to be honest, he would have spoken about his culture and his intent within his history. Okay, yeah, as the Australian descendant, he probably stems from some fairly vile people who were shipped over there and did some very ugly stuff to their own Aboriginal black people. And then he still has and harbors a lot of that negative mentality that y'all were speaking about uh, within it. So that if he was going to talk, let's say within his RNC, he would have begun the conversation with that, and then he would have gone into the manipulative language program. We're talking about what Black people haven't done. That if we're going to talk about both sides of, let's say, a communicative chain of reality, and one reason I was thinking about that was, so when you look at an MRI scan or something, within a human action or a brain interaction, the whole brain lights up because all of it is communicating with each other. But that doesn't mean that's what you hear as the final product of what somebody takes with their vocal cords and produces the sound. So I guess from me, an academic or maybe nerdly perspective, those two concepts are very important to kind of keep in mind. Like, what's the reality neural communication that is there, even if they don't actually verbally communicate it? What's the manipulative linguistic programming that they're using to actually say? And I think white supremacy is very, in its extreme, very low in RNC, but very high in MLP, if that makes any sense. Like they don't talk about their underlying psychology or even subconscious or even conscious communication at all. They like to remove all of that. Like even when we're talking about them removing black education or talking what Professor A was talking about multiculturalism, they take all of their RNC out of the situation and they add a very MLP that's very contradictory to their own subjective RNC, nevertheless reality in a whole. So I think that if that concept is true, that's more reason why we need to have our own everything because we as black people we're very honest when it comes to talking about reality compared to most of these other groups, especially. But I think even objectively considering, whereas a lot of these other groups when you get into white supremacy and Aryanism, they almost have to be low in RNC and high in MLP because otherwise they're talking about a history that nobody's going to follow because it's just so ugly and so devoid of genuine reality. So that was a long diatribe, but I don't know. It was just a thought that I had that I thought that in this space may be useful. But otherwise, I really appreciate y'all's contributions and thank you because it definitely expanded my mind. I hadn't even thought about this shit before. So,
Wani, can I ask you a question? When you were
Yes.
listing off the gymnastics, did you mention Miss Fairbanks?
No.
Okay, so she was one of the, well, they actually barred her from basically competing. But Maybelle Fairbanks, 1997, she was one of the first. I'm looking at the articles. They got African American, but when you look into her ancestry, it's she's technically quote unquote. Um, I hate African American, but like I would say FBA, and they say Seminole ancestries.
Mm-hmm.
But she passed away in the early 2000s.
I'm gonna look her up. You said her name is Maybelle Fairbanks.
Yeah, Maybelle Fairbanks. Yep, she was a she got inducted into the Hall of Fame in
I'm gonna look
1997.
her up tomorrow. Thank you for bringing it up.
Also, Diane
Yeah.
Durnham. She was the first Black national gymnast champion. It wasn't Olympics, but she's part of my family, so I just wanted to say that.
Spell her last name.
Durham, Durham.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean.
Yeah, it's my family.
Cool.
Wow, it's a small world. I'm related to W.E.B. Du Bois, and I'm the only person in my family that can't play anything. Everybody plays
See, I
something.
thought everybody knew how to read music because I started playing the viola
No,
at 5. Exactly. Because Wani,
this is prodigy.
when you talked about learning different things, yeah, language is one of them. Because the whole like, yeah, it's a whole thing when you go into therapy. They introduce you to new things, but hmm
Now, when we said, do FBAs have all the music genres, inventors, and what did others create? Here's the deal. There would be no need for the non agricultural inventions. There would be no need for trains or any of that had it not been for us creating agricultural gold. The only reason that they had the trains was because they needed to transport all of the goods to export. The only reason that we have
Right.
ports is because they want to export the goods that we made. Before that, it was an open field. What are they going to export? What justifies a train with no agriculture? What justifies a city? You don't need cities if you don't have trains and agriculture and something to export. So we're the reason that the country continued to expand into what it is today. Without the agriculture, there's no America. There's no expansion with railroads. There's no foundational cities. There's no ports. There's no nothing. There's no wealth.
Facts.
I mean, the radio needed us. I think Ma Rainey um, was a good representation of how thirsty they were and how willing they were to just wait on us hand and foot for our musical inspiration. Um, I thought that was really interesting how they depicted that because they would not have the radio. I mean, the radio, no one was really checking for their music.
Now, when
Facts.
I was researching all of our music, because we have a persistent um, heckling section that wants to say that we're not worthy, we had white boys saying that, well, you didn't have those instruments. So we get credit for it. You don't even know how to play the instruments, sir. Anyway, let's talk about these instruments. First, we had the Africans saying that you owe us your whole music genres because call and response. A lot of people have that. They want to claim our music genre with no recordings and just, well, it's call and response. What are you talking about? You're not going to claim all of these genres when you have nothing to do with it and when we created the one lame genre that you got, that you ruined. So, um, first of all, Egyptians were known for collecting instruments from all over the world, and they collected and standardized them. Later, the Greco-Roman Empire did the same thing. They had instruments, they collected them, and then sometime in the 1500s, 1600s, these Italian and German houses, they call them designer houses, started to make very, very high quality instruments, pianos and violins and things like that. And so, no, white people didn't create the instruments. And we're Americans and we played the instruments that were here in the United States of America. Not only that, we used to carve out of gourds banjars, and better known as banjos. So we have every right to play any instrument here. What are we supposed to do? Start manufacturing instruments with no factory just to satisfy people so that they won't have something to talk about? We also were talking about clothes. And for some reason, white people forgot that they were walking around in tunics, in togas. They seem to think they were wearing three-piece suits the whole time, and that we don't have the right to wear pants. Excuse me, white people did not even create pants. The oldest pants were found on a Chinese man, and pants were created and found on the Silk Road, described on the Silk Road by explorers. And the reason that people had pants is because they rode horses. It's very convenient to have um, pants on if you're going to have a horse riding culture. So white people did not even create pants. They didn't create fitted jackets or suits because Egyptians had those fitted clothing. They were some of the first people that had fitted clothing while everyone else was wearing free flowing, tunics, unstructured clothing. Go ahead, Highland.
Yeah, just a quick insert.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
when you talk about the
Go ahead, Howard.
banjo, my mom is from Hawaii because my grandpa was in Nam. He was in the military. But the banjo and the ukulele, I don't know if y'all ever had the thought of correlating those two, if that makes sense.
I never thought about it, but they are pretty
Yeah, I heard
similar.
that there's like
But
four
I'm
strings
not.
versus five strings, and like, yeah, this it's like on the
I'm
front of
gonna I'm gonna actively avoid music questions because that's not mine. I don't know, Wani.
I could look it up real quick.
Okay.
yeah, just abstract thinking. My bad. I'm not trying to like, yeah.
No, you're good. You're good, bro.
Oh,
Again, I'm from a family of musicians, and I can't play. I can't play anything.
it's
Oh yeah,
like
same here. I'm a
I
singer
try.
the
mostly. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
the the ukulele is a Portuguese instrument. They
gotcha.
just brought it over to different places.
Interesting. So, the FBAs have all the music genres. I think we've covered that. Inventors. What have we invented? Hmm. Where shall I start? How about um, Charles Drew created or discovered plasma? How far would we get without plasma? A lot of people would die in surgery without plasma. Percy and Julie, chemist. Um, Theodore Lawless, dermatologist. Was he the first dermatologist?
No,
I'm looking at a. Okay, you said
well,
no.
I don't know in this country because I've been looking at some very strange ancient um surgeries, and they were doing everything, and it's very shocking.
No, you're good. I wasn't making a statement. I was asking a question.
Doctor, Professor, before you continue, is it true that it was a black man that discovered that you can use the plasma, quote unquote, from like the coconut? It was during war.
Oh my God.
Um,
Well, that's Charles. That's Charles Drew. It says Dr. Drew was not yet 50 years old, but already his contribution to medicine had saved hundreds of thousands of lives during World War II. Dr. Drew was a pioneer in blood plasma preservation. Before his time, there was no efficient way to store large quantities of blood plasma during during emergencies or use in wartime. We got, let's see.
He developed the transfusions and blood banks, which is really very life saving. Yeah,
Amazing.
life saving inventions. Very practical.
So we got Elijah McCoy. Need I say more?
The real McCoy.
Him. Yes. We got Norbert Rillo, a slave scientist. So this ancestor was a scientist while he was enslaved.
You gotta
Makes us
send me
not one.
that because that's one I might want to put on the list.
Oh,
Like because
definitely.
it's like a lot. It's like hundreds of thousands by now. And unfortunately, they don't segregate them anymore, so they're blended in with the other inventors. So you have to dig really hard. The inventions from the mid 1800s to the mid 1900s are segregated, so we can see the ones that we invented during that period, but it's hard to see it now.
Right. So let's talk about our brother Norbert Rillo, enslaved scientist. Um, Before Rillo, two other scientists, Howard and DeGrand, had developed vacuum pans and condensing coals, which imperfectly sterilize heat in evaporating liquid portion of sugarcane. The process developed by Rillo greatly reduced the production cost and provided a superior quality of sugar. So he created, as a slave, he created a process to turn sugarcane into sugar. I need to stop complaining.
Real question, Professor. Like, how did he have enough time to think? Like, usually, like even now today, we're working so much, work, work, work. We have no time to even create or think about planning for the future. If that makes sense. I'm trying to figure out how did he do that. That's crazy. It's amazing.
It doesn't say when he's assigned
But
to
you get what I'm
Sometimes,
saying, though, right? Like
interest.
sometimes
the
these scientific inventions and ideas are like shoving themselves out of your brain, whether you like it or not. You don't need time to think about it. It's trying to think about you. And if you meditate, you'll see when I'm talking to you, you'll get a complete dump. You'll be like, all kinds of things are trying to come out. So it kind of forces its way out, and he might become obsessed with it and just keep on um, working on it. It becomes an obsession because it's trying to come out.
gotcha.
Yeah, it says when he was this is gonna piss y'all off. It says when he was assigned to the reorganize a sugar refining plant. So his slave masters, if you can use that word, assign him to a plant. Um, he was set aside for exclusive use. He was one of the most important men in the state, yet he could not take part in the affairs unless he was invited. Rouleau, that's ridiculous. That goes back to the point Wani was we had earlier over inventions came from us. So Rouleau was enslaved, and he had genius, and they suppressed his genius to use him to make a process that made trillions of dollars. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to keep in mind that sugarcane makes alcohol, makes rum, which was one of the biggest cash crops in the Americas. So if you found a way to refine that, I would say that's worth trillions of dollars.
Okay. Did
We're
he
walking
did
money,
he
ladies and
get
gentlemen.
a patent on that?
Good question. Hold on. Wow. Yes. Patent number L879.
Then he got paid for it.
Pat patent December 10th, 18. What does it say? 18. I can't tell what that is. 1816. How did he get a patent? Hold on one second. He must have got his freedom. I'm reading to find out how do you get it. The patent has his name on it. I'm assuming it's his. Master of the plantation, which his mother was. Oh wow! Norbert's intelligence was recognized at an early age by his father, who was a master of a plantation of which his mother was a slave.
So that's why he had so much time to.
Mm-hmm. There it is. So apparently his father let him go, allowed him to go to school. So he released him. Anyway, but that's what a foundational Black American is. We're amalgamation. We're mixed up. So deal with it. How about this? Juan Ernst Magziner. What did he invent? He invented the lasting machine.
What is that?
What did that do?
What
Sorry.
is it?
Hold on one second. I'm reading through it. Okay, before Maglinser, hundreds of inventors had labored and thousands of dollars had been spent on an effort to make a complete shoe by machinery. This man this is an insult. He created the machine that mass produced
Oh
shoes.
wow. Now
Wow,
why
inventors
does
such as
that
Thompson.
make everybody mad?
Because that's what we buy. That's what foundational Black Americans spend. We spend an exceptional amount of money on shoes. Like,
What does that mean? He invented it, he patented it, and he got paid.
that
What does
makes
that
me
have to do
mad
with us? We
because
didn't invent anything. I don't get it. I
Wani,
don't get it.
that frustrate. I'm not being sequitur, but let me elaborate. That frustrates me because the shoe industry. We support the shoe industry. Imagine let me ask you this: what would happen tomorrow if foundational Black Americans stopped buying Nike?
Okay, so
It,
I'm
I'm just saying we should be getting a cut of that
why
money.
we didn't invent this. Okay, so we are the reason that sports are popular, right? Because of that David and Goliath thing. If it just was white people, it wouldn't be as popular, perhaps. I don't think it would be. Um, so why would all Black Americans get money because sports are popular? Wouldn't it just be the athletes that are making it popular?
Yeah, that makes sense. But I'm just
I
saying
don't know how I don't have anything to do with it. I didn't invent a shoe manufacturing machine. So why would I get money? As long as he got the patent and he got money for himself and his family, I don't know. Nobody else distributes money out like that. Uh,
And that's a-okay. That's why I shop at Walmart.
so. He did get the patent number 274207, patented in March 1883. Do patents go down? Do they send patents down the family like property? Does it become heir property? How's that work? Granville T. Woods, we know what he did.
Don't they have an expiration date after a while? So
I think
I
so.
don't know
But
much
then they
about
can,
intellectual property
yeah, I
law.
think so. If I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm gonna have to look that up.
well, I know it's funny for like Disney. The reason why they have to make so many remakes after so many years is that so they can keep the intellectual property. But it is different based off of like uh, different patents. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get into IP law back in the day, but didn't have a chance to get around to it. I don't know much about it. I bought a book to try to study myself to learn upon it, but that's something where you kind of need a teacher. It's real deep.
Now do some more
Um,
inventions.
Granville T. Woods, I said him
The
already.
iron. I don't know if anybody still iron.
Well, Wani
Oh,
said
my
him
bad.
earlier. The induction telegraph. Garrett Morgan. Y'all know what Garrett Morgan invented?
The stoplight.
He invented
The traffic
like
light,
the
right?
He's on.
things,
And the
the
Yeah,
traffic,
gas
Oh
mask.
and,
yeah, he's on my
and the
list.
and
I
he,
traffic,
mentioned
and the
him.
traffic light too, though. He did that as
yeah, he
well.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
He did
did
a
it.
Oh, he
couple
did them
things.
both.
We
Yeah,
he
traffic
we
lights.
learned about him in Black History Month.
Yeah.
My bad.
Ironically, if y'all
Oh
notice,
wow.
it's the red, gold, and green, like the Jamaican shit. That's kind of funny.
He invented the three
Why?
position traffic
Yeah.
signal and the gas
Right.
mask.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he did that. Wow, I knew he was a gas mask. That's amazing. Does he have a patent? He has a patent as well. Granville has a patent. Martin Delaney, ethnologist. How about this? Matthew Henson,
First
polar
go to the North
explorer.
Pole.
Now he
Should I keep
he
going?
was suppressed. His journey there was suppressed. They didn't want to say that he went.
Moving right along. George Washington Carver. Need I say more?
Yep. 300
Um,
uses for peanuts. And the white man tried to shame us. How dare you ever talk to us about anything when you come from these dumpy peasant countries that didn't invent anything? Don't even talk to me right now. Yeah, they tried to say, "Oh no, he didn't invent peanut butter." First of all, that's not even what he's the most
That's
popular
the
thing that he
Lisa.
did.
Come on now.
He basically he had an abundance of peanuts and had to come up with a whole lot of things to do with them. So peanut butter was just one of the many things they would do. They tried to act like he stole peanut butter from the Aztecs. No, people that have a bunch of peanuts do things with them, grinding them and doing all kinds of things. So he did lots of things with peanuts, and he also that's not even what he's known for. He did a whole lot of things, inventions. Go ahead, Arthur.
Yeah, I think I was. Can you hear me? For one.
Yes.
Okay. So
I hear
I
you.
have a design patent, and my design patent is 18 years. And in order for me to extend my patent, I have to actually make some small detailed changes to it to extend that patent. So some patents could be 15 years, some could be 18 years. Once that patent runs out, it becomes anybody's intellectual property. It's just so you have to for the first 18 years you have to be running to make money off of it. If not, then it actually goes away and everybody else could do it.
Wow, that's crazy. That stuff is the IP law is very complicated. I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me that. How much did, if you don't mind telling me, I heard that patents are very expensive. How much did your patent cost, if you don't
I
mind
spent
sharing?
150,000 on my patent, so
Wow.
it was all the attorneys make a lot of money on patent, but they had to use a design company to actually to send the patent through. So it takes a while. It took me a year and a half in order to officially get the patent from the government.
Yeah, and becoming an IP attorney is very. That's what I used to want to do, but you have to have basically IP attorneys are engineers because not only um, it's a different bar exam, and that bar exam you have to have engineering courses and stuff. Like they look at your undergraduate transcript or grad transcript to find out if you know what you're talking about. Like engineering, physics is like heavy stuff on there. But it's a lot of money involved in it, and not a lot of people can do it. You're right about that. Daniel Hale Williams. Y'all know who he is?
Sounds familiar.
First successful heart surgeon. That's epic. Let me say that again. First successful heart surgeon. I would say that heart surgery is a big deal. Don't you agree?
Yes.
It's probably the biggest deal. He was the first. Why don't our children know about him?
I have him on the list, but
Atrium, the ventricle, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't even know how people think about being a heart surgeon. Like, how do you even start that career? All right, moving right along. Ernest E. Just. Anybody know who that is? Going once, going twice.
yes,
What you got, Wani?
marine biologist and zoology.
Bingo. But they pushing football on our kids, right? Ulysses Grant Daly, famous surgeon.
What's he known for?
Um, let's see. I'm looking.
I don't have him on my favorite inventions list.
It just has him as a distinguished surgeon
Does it,
in
does it
1920.
say what
In
year?
1920, yeah, 1926. 1926, he set up his own hospital and sanitarium.
I'll just.
Just a
How does he
distinct.
spell his
Oh, go
last
ahead.
name? Daly? Okay,
Dailey.
thanks.
Just a distinguished surgeon who went all over the world. He was chief attending at Providence Hospital in Chicago. Just basically, he did things that black people didn't do back then at all. Chief attendant means he ran the hospital.
Wow. I found out my pediatrician was hot stuff. Um, and when I was young, my parents they each had their own doctor, and I had my own doctor. They were all black. He was a medic in the military. I didn't know my doctor he was badass. Apparently, I was reading his obituary.
Wow.
Yeah, he was really badass doctor.
He was an army medic.
I think it is Army. Yep. Hey,
Yeah.
DeBlock.
It's a corpsman in the Navy, right?
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up because I kept his the information about his death. And I didn't know. I just thought he's a pediatrician, no big deal. But yep, he was really a really important doctor in the military.
Wow. Should we move on to business? I guess that's not in our title. So we took a good bit of time bathing and getting steeped into our own brilliance. Let's talk about the Dominant Society. What did they create other than the patent
Well,
office?
it seems like they're very good at um going out to other people's cultures that are more advanced and getting information from um you know Hindu Vedas, Egyptians, Sumerians, and anybody they can get things from, and then pretending that those people are actually white so they don't have to so they don't have to admit
Oh
that
shit.
those
That's
people
a talent.
then acting like, oh no, we were all just, neighbors and we just happened by to get some recipes. Can I borrow a cup
Juan
of
is funny as
sugar,
hell.
And in fact, these are totally different groups that are not white and not them. And, they just classify them as Aryan. Oh, they're Aryan, and we're going to say that Aryan is white. We win.
Damn.
You see? And we ruled Egypt for that one period. We win. They were always white. They were always
This is
white for
It's like
thousands
a
of
little
years,
kid
even before
mentality.
Yeah, it's very childish. In the Moors, we found a white Moor. That means they're all white. So anything that they rip off people, they'll just classify those people as white and keep it pushing. So that is what they're famous for venturing out, for exploring, going to other people's. They do have a lot of nerve. I'll give them that. They have a lot of nerve to run up on everybody on the planet and get information off of those people somehow, either by you know sidling up to them smiling or on the tip of a sword or at the end of a gun. They're going to get your information one way or another.
Yeah, Paul Mooney said they got more nerve than a toothache.
Exactly. They're always in somebody's face. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out, like in this part of Peru where they walked up on those people and they all ended up in pots with onions surrounding them. So it doesn't work on everybody. Try it on Sentinel Island and we'll see.
That's what I thought you were gonna say is Sentinel Island.
No, there's a part of Peru where they preserved their whole culture and did not let colonists touch them. And the reason that they did it is because they ate everybody.
Whoa, that's deep. The black was on your mind.
I wanted to add about that heart surgeon. Most Def played him in a movie. I forgot the name of it, but I put the reference in the chat. But when you look at it, he started off as a janitor in a assistant to a white man, and he the one that like he came up with with the whole concept in his head, and
Something the Lord made.
yeah, and that's really what he was kind of like saying in the movie, like God just put it in his head to do it. And another thing is when you watch the movie, if you don't know about I think during the early 40s and 50s, certain white kids was like turning blue because they couldn't breathe. And that's one of the
Mm.
reasons why he came up with the heart surgery, because they couldn't get enough oxygen to their brain. They heart wouldn't pump hard enough, and you know what I'm saying. He really invented it. You know what I'm saying? Not for I mean, it's for everybody benefit, but you know what I'm saying. He did it to save some white kids, so because they were so sickly back then. And you know what I'm saying. I just wanted to leave that tidbit.
Oh, no doubt. Also, one more thing: a lot of them are Caucasian people are born with their heart not completely like formed.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to let
Yeah.
yeah, no
Wow.
doubt in the medical field, it's like
Now,
that.
there's a guy, I've been trying to find this guy. I saw a documentary with him. He developed a procedure to remove half of your brain if you have
Jeez.
epilepsy so that you can, and then it rewires itself, apparently. And so he's performed a whole lot of surgeries on people that had horrible epilepsy and cured them. And his technique was very dramatic because obviously you don't want to have half of your brain, but the other half was damaged and it was causing him to have violent seizures. This man was from Philadelphia and he came from a very, very impoverished neighborhood in Philadelphia. He had to fight his way down the street. And he's something to look up to for real. He fought his way down the street in the tough streets of Philly, where my mother's from. And he also was a brilliant surgeon. And not only that, he developed this technique which went against what everybody wanted him to do. But he assured them that, yeah, I'm going to take half of your brain out, but you're going to have to learn to walk and talk again. But when you do, you're going to be without those seizures. And he's had a lot of success with that.
And that was a foundational Black American did that?
Yes, it was.
Wow. This is wild. I didn't think that y'all would be bringing things up that I never heard, but the information's so suppressed. You know, do y'all think that factor is ever going to change? Do you think that there will be a day in the United States of America where our kids actually go to school and learn this?
Again, it's not for the school to teach. We can always push for our history to be taught because, we do have Black History Month, and we can say during this month, teach about these inventors and these legendary athletes and legendary entertainers. We can always do that, but we're going to have to teach these things to our children. That's our job. Everybody's culture is not being taught. And if you want your child to know about their culture, we know that we have um, people oppressing us, so we have to make the extra effort because we have people putting us down all the time. We have a built-in heckling section, like I said before, where other people don't. Vietnamese people don't have people rooting against them. They fly under the radar. Nobody cares what they do. Nobody's trying to say they didn't invent things. Their word is taken if they say something, and any little thing that they would come up with would be inflated. So, since we,
That's a good, Wani, that's a great point that other groups, I need to write that down. Other groups are allowed to just lower their head and fly in up under the
yeah,
radar. That is very important.
they're socially invisible. Nobody's looking at them. No one wants to copy them. No one wants to look like them. They're boring. And the benefit of being boring is that you don't have the focus on you where people are trying to kick you down and nip at your heels and kick you in the shins and at the same time copy what you're doing. We're in a very strange position on the earth, very, very odd
Mhm.
position, and we just can't help it. We're just going to shine. We're just going to show up and show out. We can't help it. It's in the DNA. So they're just going to have to keep kicking and biting and squealing and claiming that they created our music and our food. But the thing is that we're not ignorant like people on the islands. They're so ignorant, they just steal each other's stuff. They claim each other's little one culture that they have. And the main culture that they have is something they got from us, which is funny, the reggae thing. But they do that on the islands. They'll take credit for each other's stuff, but they have no education, so they just let each other do it. They're not doing that to us. We're known to research things. We're the one that bigged up West Africa for nothing. We're the one that, put the spotlight on Queen Nzinga, who turned out to be a slave trader anyway, even though we said she was, saving people from slavery. Only her group. It was okay to sell everybody else. But we're the one who does all the research, not them. So they're not going to come over here and lie to our face and tell us a whole bunch of BS like they do to each other. In Africa, they're all liars. They're corrupt. They lie on each other's culture. They fight over jollof rice, the one thing that the French left behind. They are pathetic wretches. But they're not doing it to us because we're more educated than all of these groups. And we're not going to let them steal our music, especially when we have dates of recording and publishing and awards for these things. There's no way they can segue into it.
Well said, Wani. And I have to admit, I fell for the Nzinga mess when I was
Me too.
an early
Me
teacher. I
too.
fell for it.
Because
I thought she was a
we
hero.
didn't read the whole a story. She was a hero to her group, but she was participating. She didn't care if you enslaved everybody else. That's the part that's no good.
That's a little caveat.
Oh, can I say something? Yeah, just
Go
one
ahead,
thing.
44.
The Siamese twins, Ben Carson, you probably said it or not. I'm not sure if y'all said it or not, but he was the first to separate them. The Siamese twins, Ben Carson was.
Well, My our brother Dick Gregory
Oh,
disagreed with that. Do I know the
okay,
truth? I
okay,
don't. I
okay.
don't know. But no. I don't know. I don't know. I tend to respect Dick Gregory, and Dick Gregory. Let me say it this way, because this is not me saying it. According to Dick Gregory, that operation of which you speak was a psychological a psyop. Dick Gregory said. Dick Gregory said again that two German
Oh,
scientists did that, and he got the credit for it. But I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. And I think Ben is genius. Um, and I'm not going to take away from his genius because I love Ben's story. Ben's story is real similar. I mean, I'm not as successful by
Can you
any
can you
means.
repeat that?
What Dick Gregory?
What did he say? That's contested.
According to Dick Gregory, not according to me. According to Dick Gregory, two German scientists were, or two German doctors, scientists were flown out to do that operation. I think Dick Gregory said something like Ben Carson was the physician of record. He was in the room, but
Oh, which
that's one
Siamese
operation?
twins.
Yeah, because I
the
thought it was
Siamese
the
twin.
other one, Professor. Because I thought it was
Uh,
the one that Wani was referring to, the with the left side portion of the brain, and it was Nazi surgeons who discovered that based off of just killing people and torturing them. And that was
Well, maybe Dick Gregory got that
no,
conflated
but no,
because
Dick, no.
he
Dick Gregory, no. Dick Gregory was correct because they had to hide a lot of the quote unquote discoveries that the Nazis came up with because they also were quote unquote, if I'm not mistaken, were trying to figure out if they can put women uteruses in men's. That's a whole nother. But
no,
yeah,
they
that's a
need
whole
to
nother.
stop.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but it's the truth. They were doing some weird stuff.
Oh Lord,
I
where
gotta
are they
get that. There's
putting
a
it?
book that I was yeah. Hold on, but go ahead.
Okay, now wait a minute. Can you repeat what you guys were saying? You said that Germans were flown in, and who was the doctor of
So for
record?
the Siamese twins, Ben Carson was the first to separate them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
and I'm not. Let me be clear with this. I'm not saying that as a statement of material
Yes.
fact. I'm saying that as a quote of somebody I respect, Dick Gregory, and it caught me off guard when he said it. Now, Dick did say that when he was older in age before he passed. So I take that with a grain of salt, but it caught me off guard because I always had an immense amount of respect for Ben. Because Ben, I have to be real. Even though Ben's politics were a little janky at times, as a child in Birmingham, Alabama, when I was in the ghetto,
Yeah,
he
me
was an
too.
inspiration to me. I and I said if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I'm saying?
So
So I'm not taking nothing away
he's
from him.
supposed to be the doctor, but you're saying they flew into, not you, but the comment is that they flew into Germans to do it.
That's what Dick
Is that
Gregory
what it
said.
is? Okay.
Yes.
So this is the first time in history that a black man was credited for something two Germans did. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying
How?
anything. I'm
Oh,
saying what
okay.
Dick Gregory.
How often does
Yeah.
that
It
happen?
made it believable because he did the Siamese twins. It was believable, and then you also know John Hopkins. Also was just known for
It's
doing all types of experiments as well.
it's hard to separate those twins. I hate to see it because they, yikes, they're really, you know, that's hard. It's too many attached organs.
Yeah, I almost didn't want to bring that up. If it was anybody other than Dick Gregory has a very impressive track record of releasing secrets that were not meant to release, like the picture of what was it, Bill Clinton's friend Ron Brown, the attorney.
Professor, remember that they broke out the story, and you can go and you go to the museum. They literally were kidnapping twins to do all types of crazy experiments. And like I mean, unfortunately, yeah, they discovered some things, but like these are the stories that they have to tell. So who better yet to like pin this on this up and coming doctor? Ben Carson. I believe Dick Gregory, so I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah, I love Dick Gregory. Obviously, I quote him a lot, but I also got mad respect for Ben Carson. So I've been sitting here the whole time y'all talking, debating should I even let that come out my mouth,
Why?
and
What's the
it
big
won.
Well, I
deal?
said it.
What's wrong?
Oh, I'm just saying I want to say anything, make any throw shots at Ben Carson because
Oh,
I mean,
no, we didn't.
no, I don't want to do
We
that.
didn't. We don't know. We're just saying what others have said.
Right.
But I'm gonna go to bed because I got a tailgate. I don't know how I'm about to do this.
Yeah, it's late.
My alma mater plays tomorrow, and
Thank y'all. I
who
appreciate
knows?
the stage. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh yeah. So if Savannah's going to bed, ladies and gentlemen, anybody else want to come up and have
I,
closing
Good
remarks?
I
night.
thank y'all. I thank you. I was nervous. I appreciate y'all for giving me the
Immediate.
stage. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right on. Y'all have a good night. Peace out.